being exhibited by the students. The extent students could to our president using such unprintable words, actually shocked all of us. We thought that they had gone haywire and that something fundamental was wrong. And so that is why we were surprised, because I honestly, it was difficult for you to ascertain the role the president played in this. But we were not surprised because in the past 10, 12 years, there's hardly any year without leakage in WAEC examinations. And whenever we complain to the GES, WAEC and GES will issue a statement saying they deny everything. And so it's been the culture. And we have been monitoring WAEC for a long time. You find that because of the persistent leakage in examinations, there's now a big black market where APO is sold. Now, the proliferation of the internet and mobile phone technology has made it very easy for this, WAEC black market to fester online, and students are highly patronizing their services. And so every year, students will mobilize money and then go and buy these questions. In most times, they come. Last year, for instance, we saw the questions of social media 2 days before, mathematics, integrated science. But then the GES and WAEC will always deny. So the students always buy these questions, and then in many instances, they appear. So moving into this particular one, they were cocksure that, as usual, if they're able to mobilize their money, they will get the questions. And they got questions. The first batch of leakage occurred, I think, on Friday. We saw them on social media. I think there were 2 different leakages I saw.
Yes.
So I was feeling that WAEC finally had to change the move to second or third year by switching to the third set of papers or so. And then WAEC swerved them this time around. That is why they became angry. And so the anger of the students was mainly because they had paid. Some schools paid up to 30,000 Ghana cedis.
Wait. You're saying schools paid or students paid?
I mean, the students. In some schools, the students were able to mobilize about 30,000 Ghana cedis, and then they will go and pay. But you pay this money to people who are faceless. They will not show their faces. But because every year they get some dividend from this process, they actually believe that it works because it has been working as a matter of fact. So after they have thrown their money away, the only backup was the past questions that they got from government, from the GES. And unfortunately, that is what their backup couldn't help them. And so they were angered. If you listen to most of the students, they were saying that they have paid money. They pay money every year. Headmasters have been complaining that students spend more time mobilizing money and chasing APO instead of learning. And it's been a big issue all along. And so for me, it is not surprising because that black market is still there and booming. And the factors that have occasioned this, poverty chain haven't been addressed. And so until this hasn't been addressed, you will never expect the issue of students expecting shortcuts, i.e. getting examination papers, learning and passing them quickly. It will never end with us until we solve the issue at the base of the problem tree.
Well, Kofi, these situations you have described, for most people who are of the Ghanaian education system, this will not be new. What is new is the very public display of anger at the fact that the questions didn't show up. There have been times when we were all in school, the APO will come, it didn't show up. People are frustrated, but the anger is displayed in the dormitories or in the classrooms. But we had people picking up mobile phones to say all kinds of things. We had students massing up to assault teachers because teachers were being too strict. And so it wasn't even just a matter of the APO not coming. Some of the students, again, based on what you hear, felt they had to be allowed to cheat. That is not really good, is it?
Yeah, all you are discussing are symptoms of a problem. Of course, the extent of investment the students made in this APO investment was huge. And so, apart from the level of investment they made, the disappointment that came with it. And also, and it tells you that in most instances, the APO hardly swerves. I'm being honest with you. If you talk to the teachers, they will tell you that, look, In most of the schools, they have their own WhatsApp groups, okay? And you find one or two teachers hanging in the WhatsApp group, so they may not know. When they get these questions, they normally approach the teachers to help them to solve it if they have issues with solving some of them. But if they can solve them, they don't go to teachers. But some of the teachers are normally on this WhatsApp group anonymously. And so what I'm saying is that they have confidence in the apple because it has been coming. It has been coming. So last year, it came. You understand? And so because it didn't come this year, they were very, very disappointed and angered. I understand. They also were very, very angered because this year, courtesy COVID, the distancing was a bit wider than before. And so it wouldn't have been that easier for you this year to stretch your neck and then or try and communicate with the guy to your right, your left, or your back. And so that you may understand the frustration of students when a subject or a paper is a bit difficult because they were unprepared, and then the invigilator will not batch, in the midst of a widened sitting arrangement. And so naturally they'll be frustrated. I don't want to buy into those who think that someone promised them something. I don't think anyone promised them something. The students, unfortunately, got a past question from the genius, and then some of them took it as if it was probable questions. I understand the way students think. You see, last year, October, and that is the aspect of the politics. Mm-hmm. Last year, October, the president visited a couple of schools. He went to, I think, St. Monica's, and then he went to a school in Kwanta. During those occasions, his message was one: pass the examination to shame the enemies of the free senior high school. That was his message. Okay. Unfortunately for children of that age, the tendency of misconstruing this obviously well-intended message from the president to encourage them to pass, albeit a political jab. Some of them may have seen it as assurance that no matter what, government will do everything for them to pass. Some of them may have seen it that way. Now, 1 month after his visit, or less than 1 month, then the students received the the past questions pamphlet. It's a whole compendium of past questions. Okay, that's the first time students are receiving it in Ghana. A compendium of past questions prepared by the GES. 400,000 copies, we are told. So when the students receive these documents, some of them will definitely have a certain mindset that, okay, the way our result is now a subject matter for politicians, and suddenly we've been given these ones to prepare, then it means that it is likely there's something in this soup. It is common and normal for students to behave that way. And that is why when I saw certain students also, displaying their ignorance about how they thought what would be coming, and then venting their frustration on people because the past questions didn't appear, I understood them because they are children. And if you give them such instruments, as I mentioned, they may misuse them. If you give a cutlass to a farmer, you are giving the farmer a tool. But that same cutlass in the hands of an armed robber is a weapon. And so we thought that perhaps, even though the objective or the rationale for the genius procuring past questions, a compendium of them for students, was well intended to help shape them, prepare them perfectly for the examination. There's nothing about that. But in social policy and in administrative decision making, there is always the unintended outcome effect. And so the unintended outcome in giving them these past questions has happened to be the fact that some of the students ended up seeing it as an end instead of a means to an end, by worshipping the questions in there, mastering their answering, and going to the examination room with the expectation that they are going to meet those questions, which obviously eluded them. And so lessons well learned in that respect. I think next time, past questions, past questions, the examiner's reports, and then the marking scheme are useful tools rather for teachers, so that teachers will rather use it in guiding the students to prepare in their approach in answering questions, and then boost their confidence level for examinations. All
right, thank you very much, Kofi. Opening remarks. Let me talk to a teacher and the man who leads graduate teachers in this country. Mr. Carbon, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on the big issue this morning. what have you made, first of all, as a teacher, and you are a parent as well, from these incidents starting from Monday?
Well, I'm very disappointed, and I'm also scandalized because it is a totally unnecessary and an unavoidable occurrence. This is something that should never happen. But again, as social scientists and as educationists, we can understand where some of these things are coming from. One, education gradually is seemingly being managed and controlled publicly by the politicians. And we think that when this happens, the fulcrum of authority begins to gravitate towards political platforms and not the institutions that are in direct control of these students. Two, again, I think that these batch of students have developed a certain sense of entitlement due to the fact that their schooling is number one item in the news. And again, my brother Kofi Asari have identified some of the reasons why they will believe that they have a sense of entitlement and that everything will be given to them for free. Again, they misconstrue that free to mean absolutely everything. New rules and regulations that have seeped into Ghana Education Service recently have also created a sense of indiscipline in students and also a backtracking of teachers. Now, for example, a teacher thinks twice or tries before he metes out punishment to students because of the new rules and regulations that we are dealing with. On the specific issue, I am an educationist and I'll speak as a teacher. It is not right. It is not right to provide past questions as a traditional study material to students. It is not right. It is also not right to add marking scheme and also the chief examiner report. Looking at the time that these items were distributed and the fact that the students believed that once it is coming from official sources, it has official sanction and official backing. Therefore, there should be something special in it. All of you listening to me and my co-panelists right now, everybody will tell you that when we were in school, we were being advised against the over-reliance on past questions and that we should concentrate on our textbooks and our notes, the notes that have been provided us by our teachers. But this time, a compendium of past questions were presented. Marking scheme, that I cannot understand. Marking schemes were provided, and the chief examiner report was also printed and provided. Information reaching me is that an amount of about 20 million Ghana cedis was spent in this endeavor. So you see some of the video clips, and the students were using stones to hit the marking scheme and all that. They have over-relied on these, and it will be reflected in the type of answers that they give. I'm not saying that past questions were not in the system. They were, but it was not the norm, but rather the exception, where you study part marking scheme to see trends of questions, nature of questions asked, most of questions asked. Sometimes we actually got marking scheme to see the expectations from the examiner and so on and so forth. So once these things are in the hands of the students, when they go for prep, instead of studying their textbooks and the notes, they are rather studying the marking scheme. That is why they were destroying these materials when they came out. However, I think that once you have offended the rules and regulations, you ought to be punished. And I support the Ghana Education Service of sanctioning these students and anyone who is found foul of the rules and regulation of establishment, those people ought to be punished. But again, we have created too much furore around these students, and they are beginning to have a sense of entitlement, hence the extent of their misbehavior.
Let me ask you this, as a teacher, are you feeling, and some of your members as well, are you feeling some kind of pressure to deliver a certain outcome?
Oh, we as teachers have taught all over the years. We are versatile. We do what we have to do. We have a sense of responsibility. We cannot create magic. For example, if you bring me an aggregate 40 to aggregate 50 students, you don't expect me to turn anything out of that student. I'm not a magician. We are doing our jobs. There are people in this profession who have been in this profession for the past 30, 40 years, and they know what to do. We will not shortchange the students. We will do what. So when you put pressure on us, we can do as much as the resources are available to do. We can do as much as our strengths are available to use, and we can do as much as our intellect can support.
And before I move on, let me just ask this. Did WAEC do anything different this year in terms of invigilation, in terms of the processes, outside of the increased social distancing protocols?
No. WAEC did the normal thing. You know, one thing students do not know is that WAEC prints alternative A, B, and C papers. Papers are printed in different alternatives. In the event that WAEC suspects or realizes that there is a seeming leakage, WAEC do have the right to choose what category of questions to give, even at the last minute. WAEC did not do anything different. The teachers have not done anything different. I think that the schools should be left in the hands of those who have been professionally trained to manage schools. Let us not tamper with the discipline in the schools. Let us ensure that the teachers and management of the schools are in absolute control. We are in locus parents. We are parents of the students, and I can assure you, we will have a peaceful atmosphere.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Mr. Carbon, because Kofi also talks about the participation of teachers in some of these incidents. So I'll come back to you on the second round. Franklin, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well, Franklin.
Well, listen, we seem to be living in uncertain times, but there must be certainty to some of these issues. I think that these are not particularly surprising incidents of news. If you think that student vandalism has been something that it's been with us for quite some time, really. Just that we haven't seen pockets of them in recent times. But I must quickly say that, look, whenever somebody promises you free things, especially if a government promises you free things, you must know that the government that promises free things is big enough to take the free things back at some point in time. I'm just using this analogy to say that those students who felt convinced, rather foolishly, that the government was going to give them past questions and suppose those questions would be the ones that would appear on the paper, were quite misled. And I do not think that it was not within the remit of the government to be providing past questions, to be paying for past questions for students. You've given these students free things to the exclusion of many, and they've enjoyed the freebies. I mean, the last thing you want to do is to tell them that you are going to procure past questions for them. The notion that you are procuring past questions for them also connotes that you may be giving them free questions to answer as well. I mean, this is rather funny. I mean, on a rather serious matter, I think I like to use the analogy of the freebies. But I just have to say that the students' behavior was untoward, it was brutal, it was uncivilized, and they ordered to be punished, as the punishment have been meted out. But something else Kofi said, and I think Angel has also suggested same, is that the fixation on passing examinations and the president's, urge for these students to show that his policy had worked. In fact, he calls them Akufo-Addo graduates. In fact, if he's not using the term, that's what has been used in the media. Presupposes that, well, come hell or high water, the students must pass. Now, I'm not suggesting that that is the reason why they should have taken the law into their own hands. But it also tells me that these students were not necessarily learning. They probably have just limited time to learn. Of course, the pandemic disrupted quite a number of things as well. So there are a number of moving parts to this conversation, but it must be emphatically stated. There's no room, there's no space for vandalism in our schools. And I don't think that is what we need to be telling or teaching our kids. I have little to say about this matter, except to basically say that it was brutal, it was uncivilized, and whoever took part in it ought to be punished. What I'm not clearly unsure about is the whole movement in Parliament. I think my good friend Ras Mubarak has started a process, or is intending to start a process to pass a law to make it criminal to insult the president. I'm not entirely sure about that. But the fact of the matter is that, look, Jacob Zuma was said to be corrupt, and the courts held that it was a fair comment. In fact, they said he was a thief, and the court held that it was a fair comment in South Africa. We tend to play with too many things in this town. Of course, if the persons were seen calumnizing the president in the manner the student did, that obviously is wrong. But let's not rush ahead and start passing laws. The very laws I think our own president decided against at some point moved motions in Parliament to discard in Parliament. So let's tarry a little. These are just incidents, and the punishments have been meted out, and then we go on with our lives.
Okay, thank you, Franklin. So let me come in then. Nikwapo is here, Dr. Kobo is here, and there are two legs to this. There is the general public school situation where we had the insults, the complaints over the enhanced social distancing, invigilation protocols that caused so much trouble. And then there was the Bright Senior High School incident. And if you take a look at that, it wasn't students complaining about exams, questions not falling into place or something. It was simply WAEC enforcing the law, and in doing so, catching a school misbehaving. Yeah. And allegedly that led to the incitement of the students and the alleged assault of some persons thereof. So those are the two incidents. But Nikwapo, you've heard Kofi's take on this particular matter. He seems to have a well-rounded perspective. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I'm sad, as a parent, as someone with an interest in education, you want to look at this problem in two parts. I'll look at it in two parts.
Okay.
The free SHS policy as a whole, you understand? And then what are the immediate triggers to this particular issue? I think that the free SHS policy is a good policy. I mean, even my presidential candidate has reaffirmed the position that it has come to stay. That's President John Mahama. It has come to stay. The problem is the implementation, and we are seeing some of the results of perhaps a policy that could have been better implemented. You see,
once you open up the process in terms of access, then there's a corresponding increase in numbers. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that. Dr. Okoboy and I went to the same school. He would agree with me that even back then, when we didn't have a free SHS policy, we still had problems with numbers and access to, tables and chairs, and that's something that comes with education generally. So once there was a lack of infrastructure, you understand, adequate infrastructure to deal with the numbers, you could realize that we had to do the double track system to try and make up for the lack of infrastructure, that the infrastructure deficit that there was. And so as much as the policy implementers were arguing that you had this double track, and it actually even increased the access time, and anyone who has a realistic appreciation of education will realize that, look, once you were implementing a policy that was going to virtually double the number of students that were in the system, you needed more teachers, you needed more tables, chairs, classrooms, and all that. Once you didn't have that, the end result is that the students, however you theoretically would massage the message and make it look like they were getting more time and more, they were going to be under pressure. And you add the COVID situation, the students already have a problem. Because
I understand that, but let's also stay on. Let's stay truthful to the facts.
Yes.
If you look at the numbers, indeed they do have more time in class.
You see, the thing is, if you talk the theory, it's there. If you talk the practice, I would agree that in the third year of your institution, you are dealing with mock examination, you are dealing with registration, you are dealing with whatever it is. There is some limit in terms of how far you can cover the syllabus and be adequately prepared to deal with the examination. That's why President Kufuor, for example, even advocated for a 4-year SHS program, and he had very good reason for doing that. So you already have a 3-year program that we even have a debate about whether to increase the number, the year time to 4 years, and we are even trying to fit this into a 3-year program, and to deal with the COVID, and to deal with infrastructure deficit and all that. So what happens? Children are under pressure. Now you add this pressure, and you come to a president that decides that he wants to, unfortunately, there's been an attempt to politicize this particular issue. And I can understand. It is his flagship program. But you see, there are some things that, as much as you try to take credit for, you need to take the political venom out of. Because immediately you attack the politics to it, you change the narrative of whatever it is that you are trying to do. Now, the president on the 70th anniversary celebration and speech and prize giving day of Prempeh College, that was on the 30th of November 2019. And I want to quote him. He says that final year students, this was part of his speech, you have a big responsibility to make sure that your grades and examination results are positive and exemplary. Make good use of the sets of past questions and answer booklets procured from the West African Examination Council to help you in your studies. You must always remember that there are some powerful political actors in our country who never wanted and still do not want this policy. You see, the president may have had good intentions, you understand, for wanting to see to it that his babies, as he puts it, excel at the exams. You see, he should have tarried a bit cautiously. The kids are already not having, in practice, adequate teacher-student time in terms of the and you can argue the theory. I'm saying that the practice of it is that COVID plus the practical nature of, and the fact that their calendars have shifted and all that. Look, these kids were not having adequate time to prepare and finish their syllabus. And if you don't finish your syllabus, you already are under pressure. We have been students before. In the 3-year program, you enter probably, and in some schools, they don't even do the first term examination. And they don't do the final term examination because they take the mock and then quickly try to exit the students out. So practically, I was one of the people that supported the 4-year program. I think that it gave time and space for the kids to cover the syllabus properly. When you add this past question issue and 400,000 past questions, chief examiners reports and all these things were printed for these students, and it was in the form of almost like a booklet. All of us who have been students before know that you normally touch these past questions as a practical guide. You understand? And you normally go after it yourself. And most of the times that your lecturers will tell you that just use it as a form of practice. So you study the subject area, you time yourself, and then you try to put yourself under exam conditions to prepare you to be able to sit the pressure. Because even sitting down for 2 hours to write a paper is a pressure exercise. You understand? So you stimulate the exercise to just try and get you prepared for. But it is not meant to replace the regime of having the teacher go through the syllabus with you, you spending time to sit behind the books yourselves and trying to understand the topic yourself. When you take a signal,
Nikwa, just hold on for me. I have to take a quick break. When I return, then you continue. Okay. Then we'll hear from Dr. Onado Koboy, who has 3 pages in front of him. He's taking his own exam here. The big issue will be right back.
If a school doesn't have the right facilities,
Every day at 8 p.m., City Newsroom brings you analysis of the major news stories of the day. It's in-depth, comprehensive and researched.
Disperse the crowd using tear gas, but more weapons have been fired. And I'm sorry, speaking to you directly from the window of a police station in between 2 troubles.
Please, I'm just after the fetching of the water because the government is saying that they should give us some water freely. But hereby, we are not seeing anybody who is bringing the water for us to fetch.
It's 1 hour of local news from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. The City Newsroom, every day on City TV. It's your world.
Precision, style, class, execution, talent. Congratulations to the top 20 contestants that made it to the main audition for Keyboard Idol. The question is, which of these 20 talents will be in the top 10 and ultimately become the Keyboard Idol? Catch the Keyboard Idol every Saturday at 7 p.m. only on City TV. Tune in to City TV and follow the conversation using the hashtag Keyboard Idol for updates or visit citytvonline.com. This amazing talent competition is sponsored by Asanka, powered by Tech Aid, and Santol Energy. Keyboard Idol is powered by City TV. The quest to find a keyboard superstar starts now.
We're about to change your Sunday night for the better.
Set your timers and join us every Sunday night starting from the 7th of June on The Upside Down Show. We will bring you the most captivating guests and explore the most amazing stories.
We will dazzle you with real-life situations and examine mind-blowing topics. Join me, Frema Binyami,
and me, Ato Kwamna, every Sunday at 7 p.m. on City TV. Are you ready?
big issue. My name is Godfrey Akoto-Boafo, discussing the week that started with the written paper for the senior high school, the WASI, and the attendance issues that came with the demonstrations, protests in some schools, assaults in others, and the punishment meted out by the Ghana Education Service to some students and some schools, and investigations are still ongoing. Don't forget that the exams are still ongoing. They will keep going till September 5, so quite a bit of road left ahead of us. But I'm doing the show this morning with Nikwapo Samado, who has the floor. Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa, Ijo Kwabonu, President of NAGRAT, is with us via Zoom, as is Kofi Asare, Executive Director of Africa Education Watch. We'll go back to them for a second round. Bernardo Koboy, Member of Parliament for Lejo Kuku, is also with us. Nikwapo, you were making a point.
Yes. So you see, when you take the poor implementation, top it up with this past question business, 400,000 past questions being distributed to these individual students, what you realize is that this was a desperate attempt by this government to ensure that come rain, come shine, these students, despite the poor implementation of the free SHS policy, would be able to produce magic. You can't do that. You understand? And that is one of the problems that I have with this particular implementation of the free SHS. Good policy, wonderful policy. Because of the lack of broad consultation, its implementation has been disastrous. And what it has produced is half-baked students who then are given a lifeline of past questions, and who, upon a cue from the first gentleman of the land, then believe that these past questions are our messiah because we have not adequately completed our syllabus. We lack the necessary preparation, and so when we are giving these past questions, this is like the lifeline. Let's just study these past questions, and by some magic we will pass. Look,
but wouldn't, if it is that, wouldn't the problems have been wider spread?
You see, this is it. Remember that. Remember that.
There are a lot of schools who are okay.
Remember that the cream de la cream of the best students in the BEC end up in the top schools, grade A schools in our system. What then happens is that your policy cannot be geared towards the 10% who come from the very best private schools in the country. Your policy is geared towards the 70% or 80% who may not come from the best private schools in the country, but are equally important for national development. So when your policy is not being implemented to adequately take care of the over 300,000, that you are looking at those who are in St. Rose's or Presec or Achimota, of course, those schools have, number one, got the best students. And so once you are, and as one of our co-panelists were saying, he cannot produce magic out of aggregate 25 students.
Mr. Carbon.
Yes, but of course, if you give him a grade, somebody with aggregate who got 10 ones or 9 ones, and even has a shorter period of study, that bright kid can probably, within a shorter period of time, be able to produce. But you are not doing a policy for those kinds. You are doing a policy for the majority of Ghanaian children. And that is where the problem is.
So you blame this on the free SHS?
Oh, obviously. If you have the implementation,
isn't that a reach?
Haphazardly done. It is not. But what are you seeing? The attempt to use past questions as a lifeline to rescue a policy that is good in theory but has been poorly implemented.
But that's what I'm also saying.
This is
why
the result.
Isn't this everywhere?
So now you have. Oh, but it was widespread. You see, the thing that you are seeing is that you are not looking at the elite schools who have the best students. I'm looking at the majority of the students who are not coming from the elite schools, but who have to suffer this. And once they were not getting the questions from the past, because obviously WAEC is an international body. Anybody with a working knowledge of WAEC will know that, as has been explained. If they have a hint that there are any, leakages, they will do their possible best to block those leakages. And so once they change those questions, you could see that the kids are frustrated and they are expressing their frustrations.
Okay.
We condemn the insults and all that. Obviously, none of us who are students would even have dared to behave the way they behaved. And I think the punishments were appropriate. It sends the right message. But we should look at the underlying problem. The underlying problem has to do with the poor implementation of the free SHS policy, the results that we are now seeing with the attempt to use these past questions as a lifeline to save the poor implementation. These kids are being used as guinea pigs, unfortunately, but we are praying that they muster the courage to be able to write these exams. They should not rely on any past questions. The exams are not over. And I think this is a good forum to advise them that they may have had a shaky start, but these things happen. I think that the GS should employ the psychologist to go in and talk to these kids. Let them understand that there's no shortcut in life.
Okay.
The thing is to sit down and read over what they have been taught, take these exams, and let's pray that at the end of the day, the results are one that we can adequately take as a country.
All right, thank you.
These are kids, and we shouldn't play politics with their lives.
All right, thank you very much, Nipako Samuado, member of the NDC. Dr. Bernardo Koboy, member of Parliament for Lejo. Could you have any senior high schools in your constituency?
Yes, we have O'Reilly Secondary School.
How are they doing? That's a very good school.
They've moved to your...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The new building there.
Yeah, O'Reilly and then Teshi Presby.
Have they been enjoying the exams?
Yes. You know, let me start by saying that it's for good reason that I wore this shirt with the president on, and as part of my orientation going towards December. I start every program with only two items. That makes me wear this because this is the greatest value we are taking into December. On the 22nd of January 2019, the Obuasi mine was reopened after 4 years of inactivity. It didn't open by chance. It took government a lot of effort to discuss waivers, tax incentives, support, stability electricity supply, factors that will enable them to reopen and be sustained for 22 years. And I'm happy to mention that over 2,500 direct jobs have been brought back. These are people who are watching and listening, and their prayer is that this government is preserved. The second one is that just a few weeks ago, under one district, one factory, we passed a waiver, $28 million for Casapreco to resuscitate the Paramount Distilleries in Tanoso in the Ashanti region. That company went defunct. It's a distillery owned by Gihok. But under one district, one factory, it became possible for Casapreco to waive taxes on machinery and raw materials. And today, they are going to have about 1,800 jobs. What am I trying to say? Basically, the essence of government is to create more opportunities and lift people from poverty to a bright place. And this is the greatest value we go into the Kufuor brand. Let me come to this issue. You know, I've taken some notes so that I'll be quite orderly. Just one quick response to my brother, what's the name, our teacher on the, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Carbon, yes. President of NAGRAS.
Yes, I wrote exactly what he said, that we were advised against over-reliance on past questions. I'm happy he didn't say reliance, but what? Over-reliance. And I know why he captured it. When I was in school, I was not a past questions person. I always tried to go, I mean, like they say, de novo, to go straight from what I've learned. But over time, I realized that having a look at past questions helps in three ways. One, it makes you appreciate the principles that are needed in the subject that you take. Because sometimes you are taught and you don't know how even questions are framed. Two, it gives you an idea of your state of preparation going into the exams. And the third P, so you are looking at principles you need in what you've been taught, the preparation, and the probability of passing the exams. If you look at past questions you solve on a subject, and you can do more than 50%, there is the likelihood, it's our chance, that you can do more than 50% in the main exams. So giving someone past questions cannot be a bad idea. And relying, I'll not even say relying, taking a look at past questions also cannot be a bad idea. Now, the free SHS. When people say don't politicize it, it depends on how you look at it. Partisan politicization doesn't bring much value. But the fact remains that it took a policy of government to make sure that the cost of education at the senior high school was taken away from parents to that of the state. That is a fact, and it was a product of political decision. Myself, when I was in Presec, I always said my mom always went for loan at ADB to pay my fees. If she had not gotten a loan, there is no way I could have passed through secondary school. So if you have a government that says that, look, there's going to be a burden of paying these bills every year, but we are going for it, against then a government which said this might be too much, let's focus on infrastructure and close the gap. We said we will carry the double burden of closing the gap in infrastructure and paying the recurrent bills. That was a bigger responsibility, but we went for it because we believe that we must invest in the youth of this country. Now, it is also a fact that some people try to whittle down the commendations that should have come with such investment by saying that the quality will be poor. And the only way to vindicate them is to have results that will be worse off compared to last year's, performance. We should just get the facts. Now, any president, all presidents from Nkrumah, Gordonsbeck have always wished final year students well, irrespective of the challenges they might have, if existent or any. It cannot be evil or bad to wish someone well despite their challenges. So if the president goes to a school and says that, look, study hard, take a look at past questions, use all the tools you've been given, that should not be cited as a reason why someone engages in aberrant behavior. Now, we've seen students behave in a way that all have condemned.
Yeah.
And it raises two key issues which I've written. Character formation. The state can pay and fund your education, but they have a limit when it comes to the extent of formation of your character. That is why training of the mind is not enough. The heart is also important. And when I say the heart, the persona of the person. And that is why two people with the same results, same brain capacity, cognitive function, can go for an interview, and you can see that one is clearly different from the other, even in appearance, even by the way they talk, even by the tone of their voice. And should they make a mistake, how they respond. So really, these things, what we saw, is bringing out challenges in the society that we must all shoulder and take seriously, rather than trying to look at political parties and look at who paid for who.
Now, but on that one, before you go on,
Yes.
Angel does make the point
Yes.
that particular one about training the mind and
Yes.
training the heart
Yeah.
has also become part of political policy.
Yes.
And teachers are struggling to overcome that particular scenario. So how do they train the heart? When,
Yes.
as you are saying,
Yes.
the political policy can do its own, then the people are supposed to train the heart.
Yes.
But at the moment, you have the political policy telling the people supposed to do the training, how to do the training,
Yeah,
and perhaps limiting them.
Respectfully to my brother,
Mr. Carbon.
Mr. Carbonu, there are some interventions that are policy interventions, like deciding to fund free SHS. Funding the free SHS, to make sure the program becomes successful, there are some things you must supervise. Now, if previously, let's say a particular headmaster must take some monies to pay for a particular item, and government is paying, government can put in place infrastructure to check, to make sure that you don't collect the money in the school. I don't believe anyone will say on this show that now we are virtually telling how teachers to teach and impact knowledge on the kids. We are not micromanaging schools. But it is important to put structures in place to make sure that what has been agreed upon as infrastructure or as processes are adhered to, like these PTA dues and all that. Now, let me quickly say that the attitude or the reaction from these students, there are some ills of social media. When I say ills or deficiencies of social media, everyone who monitors social media must be conscious of this. Otherwise, you make serious misjudgments. We have close to 500,000, in fact, more than 500,000 students sitting, who went back to school, 580,000. because Gold Track, you had a few of them. Let's even take 400,000 students writing these exams. Godfrey, if 400,000 kids present themselves for an exams, and if you get 20 who are complaining that the exams, it was difficult, it was not what they expected, how dare you even think that it's a reflection of the whole curve? Should you draw in terms of their reaction and performance? In fact, we are completely lost. But I'm not surprised, because that is, like I said, one of the divisions of social media. Because two people have a video, wow, they are struggling. Wait for the results. And I am very confident that the results would show us that what we witnessed, of course, is a serious outlier. If you draw the curve for these 500,000 and 400,000 students, there are people on the extreme ends. When I was in PSEC many years ago, even in a school like PSEC, there were people who wanted to sit by brilliant students, because their only hope going into the exams is the guy who sits in front of them. If you're an invigilator and you try to take that guy away or increase the distance, they will fight you, even if it will cause them, it will bring attention on, because their only hope is the guy in front of them. Now, so such characters or students are not existing only today, but they've been with us all this while. Respectfully, we should be careful not to associate any ill, any challenge or deficiency in character or something to free SHS. Look, I always contend that free SHS, in fact, the current system is just like the status quo then. The only thing that it has added is that instead of your parents paying for the bill, the government says, I'm paying. So that if there are character issues, it's a reflection of how society is. If there are issues, look, a student who relies on a poor 100% to pass would not be straight in his subsequent life activities. When I say not straight, even if he goes to the university, he's always looking for a crooked way to make it. At the job site, look for crooked way to make money and all that. So the point is that these things should tell us of some of the challenges that we have to look at in society. And guess what? Addressing these ills starts from our homes. In fact, a child's formation and character is a function of the family setting. Look, there are times my child comes to me and says that I want this, and I don't hear, but I eventually shout and go like, please get out, I'm not giving you this. And immediately they go like, please, I want this. Why do they come again with please? Because I've told them that it's not a right for me to give you anything. You seek it with humility. Children who are not 7 years. So if they grow with this, anywhere they go, in asking for something, they exhibit what? Humility. If my child talks to any of the guys whoever I do my work with, politics or whatever, and I see that the tone is harsh and doesn't come with please or show respect, I rebuke instantly. Why do I do these things? Because if I want the child to grow, to respect authority and elderly people, or those, even the colleagues, it will start from the house. A child who talks anyhow to anybody and is not rebuked will grow with it. So really, the president, in mentioning past questions and all that, was not teaching kids a shortcut, but was telling them, apply all your tools. And by the way, when I was in PSEC, because I was struggling even with fees, most of the past questions I had access to were from friends whose parents could buy it. I mean, Godfrey, we are taking some things for granted. Buying a booklet of past questions is a challenge for some families. So if you have a president or a government, when I say it's a challenge, if my mother had to take a loan to pay my fees, who told you that I'm one of the students who could walk to EPP and buy books? No way. You make friends, you are always trying to, get their books, borrow small for some 24 hours, give it back to them, including past questions. So the point I'm making is that we should not get to the extent where, because of partisan politics, we will even come at a government who, beyond paying for tuition and body and all that, will say, in addition, I've given you past questions. And look, I can say this and note it. When the results of these students come, it will be an improvement of the past. An improvement. I am absolutely sure. When Nipaku, I wrote some of his statements by saying kids not knowing, not having adequate time to prepare. You are prejudging. But I'm coming. I wrote your statements. Statements like this are absolute in their nature. When you are saying the kids did not prepare, you are assuming that the videos you've seen of these students is a reflection of the preparation of over 400,000 students. How can you even think like that? It's because of social media. The majority, the overwhelming majority, are focused on their exams, wanting to send a signal first to their parents. Remember, most of them, I'm careful, I wish I would say all, but in order to stay in safer territory, most parents and students are grateful to the government that paid their fees. But they are also grateful to their relatives, I'm talking about parents, and want to show them that they appreciate the investments they've made in their lives. Some went to private schools.
2 minutes.
Excellent. Some went to private schools. They know their parents have invested in them. And look, we all were in school before. The first person you usually want to impress is your parents, because you feel that you want to justify the confidence they have in you. And so, for me, we should use these things that we've seen in social media as a reflection of some of the challenges we have in society. Youth that are willing, look, a student that can behave like that on set needs help. The sanctions are in order because, like I put it, is to preserve the future students, those who write next year. If you don't take any action, next year they might burn the whole school. So for preservation of the future is important, and also to serve as a deterrent. But what is even more critical is for us to realize that there is a need to help build the character of students. The greater responsibility is on families. And not only assume that when government funds their, their bills at the school, that would guarantee perfection in the behavior they exhibit. Free SHS came to take burden, access, cost from parents. And the facts also show that it opened the way for a lot of students. We have more students writing the exams. If you think, because more are writing, quality has gone down, wait for the results. It will justify. And it's not a crime for a president to wish students well. JM was wishing the students well.
Nobody said
Everyone was wishing the students well.
I'll give you 30 seconds on this, and then I have to go back to Kofi.
He and I went to a school that had no walls. You understand? But he and I will testify to the fact that how many times the students break bounds, even though we had a school that had virtually no walls. It is because, listen, yes, some, you see, some, but a majority did not. Why? Yeah. Because we had the housemaster to or teacher to student ratios were reasonable. You understand? If you want character formation, it means that you must have adequate teachers to be able to police and build and mold the character that you want.
But you are saying that for now it doesn't exist?
But this is just based on the data available. The assets, listen, the number of students that we have generated. It's good. Nobody says nobody has a problem. Listen, nobody has a problem with the free SHS. It's something that
you have serious problems.
The implementation has been the problem.
And which projects go for that?
If you don't address some of these clear problems that are there, we will seek to always paint them over. These are the results that we are going to have.
Okay, your point is well made.
Give me 10 seconds. So give me 10 seconds.
No, I can't. I'll give you Kofi Asare 30 seconds. I'll come back to you. See, the Nipa is dealing with. But cool boy. Mr. Asare.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me do a final round on this, and then we can end this particular one. And there are those who have expressed concern, and they expressed that concern largely on if WAEC is not careful, the exams that it conducts might lose its relevance. And there are those who have said that, well, there are a lot of schools now that are offering other options. And the impact of what is happening now, although, as Dr. Koboy said, might not be on a very large scale, the impact might be felt in 3 or 4 years when these persons are in universities or some of them are in the job market and whatnot. What can WAEC do from here, and how can we fix the system? I've seen the Child Rights International statement, for instance, that says perhaps it is time to take a look at the examination regime in the country. What are your thoughts on that? And Angel, that question also goes for you, so just think about it for me.
Okay, well, just to advise the politicians that you can't politicize education and have quality. Dr. Koboy should understand that you can't compare results of WAEC over time. It is only a propaganda exercise. It has only political propaganda value. Examinations over time take place within different environments and have different stress levels. Last year's examination was taken at a time when there was no COVID. This year there is COVID. 2016 exams, a particular examination would have been a bit difficult. So there are different stress levels, different environments, and so it is not possible to scientifically compare the result of a batch of examination and compared to previous one. You can compare for a year across subject areas. And so please, let's discourage ourselves from politicizing the results of this examination, because it is one of the key factors putting pressure on the children and not making them focus on their books. Let's decouple our politics from their performance. It has never been so. In 2005, Ghana government rolled out the free compulsory universal basic education policy. That has enrolled more than 6.5 million children in school. No one has politicized free compulsory universal basic education. Why can't we politicians let the free senior school policy run? Are they not all constitutional provisions? They are all in Article 25. Free senior school is 25B. FQ is also in the Constitution. Both policies are constitutional. One has run since 2005. No one has politicized it. So why can't you let this policy be there and let it run instead of the overly politicization of its implementation and outcomes? Please, it will not be sustainable. It will not succeed if we continue to put it into the political boxing ring. Now, WAEC. You see, the challenge you have with WAEC is that WAEC has a monopoly. And because it has a monopoly, WAEC is not under any pressure to deliver. That's the point I want to make. Every year there are leakages. No one seems to care. But you see, it will get to the point where our certificate will become paper if we don't check this. WAEC is doing examination for Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria, and WASI. In other jurisdictions, even in Nigeria, in other countries, there's no monopoly in the public sector assessment ecosystem like we've done for WAEC. And so we have said that for us to ensure that WAEC's key problem, which is ensuring security of papers, is given premium, we need to open the way for some competition. Get one or two international examining bodies to enter the public space, undertake the same assessments using the same syllabus. Of course, WAEC may focus on using recall in the assessment. Another one may decide to use analytics. It may require just a tweaking of the teacher training, pedagogy, teacher training curriculum, but then you can have two systems running so that there will be competition for WAEC. Other than that, WAEC's monopoly will keep making them laxic, and then we will be quiet, accepting as if WAEC there's no alternative to WAEC's inefficiencies. If you go to the UK, there are about 5 examining bodies. They have the OCR, the Oxford Cambridge OCR, they have the Cambridge, they have the New England, about 5 of them. So many countries hardly settle on just one examining body. Apart from that, to ensure that even if you have one examining body, that body is subject to quality assurance and strict standards regulation, there is normally a regulator for the assessor or the examining body. In the UK, they have what they call the Office of Qualification and Examination Regulation. If you go to Scotland, they have something similar to that called the SQA, Scottish Qualification Authority. These authorities are regulators that are above the examining bodies, and so their job is to ensure that there is standards and then quality assurance. WAEC is the monarch of all the survey. They are not under any regulation by anyone. So when WAEC papers leak into the black market and everybody gets to know, then WAEC will come and deny. Or WAEC will say, we have commissioned an investigation and we are denying. You commission an investigation into yourself. How can WAEC commission an investigation into their own conduct? WAEC will create their own courts, install their own judge, set and panel their own judge, and then they will adjudicate their own matter. We cannot build a nation. We cannot pretend we are building a nation with this, attitude that has festered for decades. And so we need to have a regulator for the examining body, WAEC. That regulator will also be a regulator for other examining bodies outside the WASI space. I'm talking about maybe NAPTEX and other technical sector, teacher exams unit, NAPTEX and other TVET sector examining bodies, so that they will all operate under strict regulation, standards enforcement, quality assurance from the regulator. The regulator will have the right to withdraw license if you cannot write an examination without leaking papers every year and all that. And so we need that. Now, let's look at Cambridge. In Ghana here currently, In the private sector, we have the Cambridge system. The Cambridge is one of the most popular ones after WAEC in the private sector. Papers for Cambridge appear in Ghana 1 month before the examination, the Cambridge GCE level. They arrive in Ghana 1 month before the examination. And papers are kept in the schools by the headmasters in Ghana here. Have you ever heard of Cambridge exam leaking before? Now go to WAEC, let the examination papers arrive in the police station. It will be kept in the police station room. And then everywhere you have it there. And so please, we have gotten to the point where we need to depart from what we think we are used to. We can't be used to the inefficiencies of WAEC. If WAEC cannot secure questions, for which reason there is a growing APO market, which is preventing our students from concentrating on learning, we cannot have this discussion end at any point in time or in future if we don't resolve the WAEC inefficiencies. So let's dilute their monopoly and let's place a regulator above WAEC so that the regulator will ensure that WAEC does not become a judge and then a lawyer and then their own courts and then keep telling us that there are no leakages when everybody knows that social media is awash with leakages and they go and write and the same questions come. That is the way forward.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Kofi Asare, Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, for your input on this segment of the program. Let me go to Angel also for his final comments on this particular topic. Angel, on the WAEC issue.
Yes. Dr. Koboy, I beg you in the name of God, do not predict the outcome of the exams before it is even written. The moment you make that statement as a politician, even the results when they are released may be tainted with political conclusions. I plead with you. Let politicians stay out and allow the professionals to do their work. And let us all believe that the result that will be released will be a reflection of the performance of students rather than the predictions of politicians. I plead with you in the name of God. You may not mean any harm, but there is a possibility that your statement will be waiting for political conclusions. Again, let me also state that nations are moving on, and that even when you take universities, and I'll mention one university, SHS University, will have a different way of questioning each students, and sometimes even allow students to take textbooks to the examination hall. But the nature of the questions is such that it is not your reference to the textbook that will bring the best or otherwise performance out of you. The world is moving on, and it looks as if the old ways of doing things, and I agree with Kofi, my union have called many, many years ago that we need to have a competitive assessment system where at the end of the day, when the uniform standard is applied in every school, parents and students even choose which examination body they will apply to and write the exams. So one West African body superintending over exam, I think, is a thing of the past. I don't think it's the best thing that. So I think that itself we have to also look at. The next thing that I would like to say quickly, and I know that when this issue of the schools leave, Mr. Host, we are supposed to leave for the politicians like Franklin Kujo and Co. Again, you see, students have, schools have characters. For example, Franklin Kujo and myself, I would say went to a better school than Okoboy and you. Because this is slanderous.
We did. How? Which one?
Which school? Which school?
We went to Kopios.
Jesus.
Pope Jones.
Pope Jones, your ship has set sail already.
Which one?
Pope Jones, they come for extra classes.
They come for extra classes in present.
It's okay.
Everybody knows that. I'm sure you even have come for extra classes before. We should check the list in the school.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Let Mr.
Kabonu's name over there.
Yeah.
Mr. Kabonu, continue.
It's just closer. When your vacation is closer.
And when you start research, your internet will be unstable.
Yes, I think that let's instill discipline. Let's allow the school.
Mr. Kabonu.
Oh, Mr. Kabonu is off.
When you mention present,
when you mention present, that's what happens. When you
guys, hold on.
Mr. Kabonu is back.
Okay. Am I online?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go
on.
on.
Online?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
So let's allow the schools. Am I back? Okay.
Yes, you are. Go on.
See, the problem is when you mention present.
I also know how to say. Yeah.
Please continue, sir. Mr. Kabonu, continue.
Yeah. So I'm saying that let's leave the schools to develop discipline in their schools. Look.
We seem to be having problems with Mr. Kabonu's line. We will try and get him. We'll try and get him back.
I know very well that they are one school to the other. There is one school in the Volta region, and I know Franklin Kudo knows that school very well. St. Mary's Lolobi is a very small school, but very disciplined school where students are monitored regularly. Where is see the performance of St. Mary's Lolobi these days? Very good. So let's lead the schools to operate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kabonu. Pojoba, Franklin Kujo, your final words on the education matter.
Without a doubt, the two schools Angel mentioned, St. Mary's and Pope Jones, they really stand out. I mean, those references to extra classes are only because when we are on vacation, people who come from live in Greater Accra are closer to Presec, and we think Presec is a good school. That's all.
You don't just think, you know.
Not better. But let me just say that
sacrilegious.
Look, at the end of the day, I mean, the conversations have been had. I think it was offensive to behave the way the students behaved. I think this expectation that people must pass at all costs in order to satisfy a certain political promise is misplaced, and I think it is unfair on the students as well. I mean, the pressure being brought on the students is not equal to the contact hours that they are supposed to be having, and it's not equal to the levels of resources that they need. I mean, education must move beyond just examinations. I worry typically for the 21st century graduates, SHS graduates, when I look across the world, in fact, even within Africa, and I compare some of the mere thought processes, I worry because there's a depth in terms of quality and logical reasoning that we seem not to be having. I mean, it's evidence in the international exams that they took recently, where some of them couldn't even identify some of the objects. I think we should be focusing more on, having education pass through the students rather than students passing through educational institutions.
All right. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, you guys have 5 minutes on this, and then we can talk about the voter registration exercise and Kelny GVG. So, I think this is the you end. So let me come back to Dr. Okoboy.
Yeah. Let me make it short. The families, the over 1 million families who have been beneficiaries of this free SHS program can tell and know that this government meant well and still means well by investing in their children. And I believe that the overwhelming majority are grateful. If our senior high schools had challenges before the coming of free SHS, the funding from government will not erode all of them. Mm-hmm. And so what we have to do is to focus and attend to our challenges rather than trying to look for a program that has increased access and try to bastardize that program. Let me also plead with my brother, the one who spoke, not...
Professor?
Yes. to say that you cannot compare the results or performance
year on year
because conditions and factors will be different. I beg to differ, with all due respect. How do you tell that interventions and programs to improve quality are working if you cannot do any comparison? What you do in science or research is to look at the figures, but also be attentive to factors that might account for the trend and the changes. In fact, that's what you always look for. So, I mean, that one too, I beg to differ. We can. If 70% of candidates, those who sat for the SSC, passed English last year, and this year you're having 75 or 80%. That is a fact. Then you can go into the figures. What accounted for the jump? Was it improvement in teaching, or it was due to something else? And these things are allowed in science and studies. Secondly, my brother Angel, I am a citizen and a politician. I am not barred from discussing issues which might be the domain of particular professionals. Because I'm.
But he hasn't said so.
No, I'm coming. I just want to. You see, when I wrote what he said, something like, let us leave the professionals to do their work. When I make comments or try to make assessments or evaluation with something that has to do with education, I'm not saying I'm the authority or perfect, but at least listen to the reasoning and the logic. And based also on where you're coming from, tell me the inefficiencies or deficiencies so that I'll learn more. If there are some that are also sound, through our discussions, I'll get to know. This, I normally want us to allow others, no matter how naive they might look, to speak into areas that are not their areas, so that we take the opportunity either to fine-tune what they are saying or to educate each other. That is very, very important. And by the way, predictions are made based on assumptions. And anyone who engages in prediction knows that if the assumptions don't hold, the outcome will not be like they predicted. So, because my brother Kwako said they've not prepared well and all that, I was saying that he's prejudged based on the few. I'm coming. Yes. No, it's not fair. But if you say their preparation is inadequate, by extension or by extrapolation, you are trying to say that then, I mean, they are likely to fail or not do well. But my point is that, based on, I didn't add a number of factors, but I said I am convinced that it will be an improvement of last year. Obviously, it's based on the assumptions that, of course, these are students who have prepared. It's based on the assumption that, I mean, most of the headache in terms of access and things have been borne by government and all that. And it doesn't mean that what Okoboy has said here is not to happen 100%.
Certainly, but I think his fear is from the understanding of how people consume what people in positions of authority say.
But really, if a politician says that students are going to exams and is convinced that they will do well than last year, really, progressively, in any enterprise you find yourself, look at even the way I chose my words, progressively, you expect the current to be an improvement of the former. That is a natural default setting. And that's why I went with that.
That's one, okay.
In fact, it is no news. Really, it is, in terms of research, it is not much news if the students come and do better than last year. Is that also? Because progressive, that's how things are structured. It is rather when they come and do worse compared to the past, the researcher will go like, come on, what went wrong? You understand? So, what I said was more or less the default setting. Of course, maybe the news will be that if you say, because they've done better, it took the free SHS policy, Papa will be in trouble and will not be happy.
No, it's just also this country has a long history of drawing up tips. You might say it and then somebody will use it in a different context.
No, but let me conclude quickly by saying that in the democratic experiment, when you make comments, people can take it and tell, like these comments I just made, that in the default setting, with all the interventions that have been put and improvement, I expect students to do better than the last time. Someone can say, oh, Okoboy it can be news tomorrow. Okoboy said if students do better or do well, it's no news. So it means he's undermining free SHS. But the point I want to make is that when you speak in a democratic setting, don't be surprised when people try to give all kinds of twists. You must only be tolerant and be ready to always speak to the things you mentioned and try to make your points.
No problem.
Yes.
All right, quickly, Deepak, before you come, I think Kofi Asare stayed on the line because he said he wanted to make another quick intervention. Let me grant him that.
Okay. Kofi, you see, why it will not help us if we don't discontinue this comparative analysis of results with a political lens is that, you see, the results, even if scientifically there's a basis to compare, and I'm saying that there isn't, even if there is, you know, the results are released in percentages. Now, what has happened under the free senior high school is that before it came, the placement regime was between 06 and I think 36. When the free senior high school came, there are 300,000 people, extra people who have been added on to the numbers. Majority of them are those who have between 36 and up to even 50. Once you don't get 9 in maths or 9 in English, you qualify. And so people with grade 60 are all in, grade 50 are all in senior high school. And no one should tell us that when you have majority of those who have been added on as a result of the free senior high school scoring between grade 36 and up to grade 50 or more, it is likely, very likely, that percentage-wise, the performance may go down because the number of people who have been added are not people who are academically, who have strong academic foundations. And you don't learn English and maths in senior high school. You learn it in the primary school. So if the foundation is weak and you came with 50, 55, 40, you will not be transformed into a grade A student within the 2.5 years of your free senior high school. And so if we keep saying these things, we will end up being exposed by the percentages because the percentages will definitely not work against our expectation politically because we have added on lots of numbers who obviously previously couldn't get placement because they were scoring between 36 and above 50. Finally, as Angel said, when the politicians interfere in the work of the school's management, it leads to laxity in discipline.
But what do you mean by politicians interfere? Can we elaborate? Yes.
I'll give you an example. An example is
forgive me, I'll give you a time.
The headmaster of the management of Adiembra Senior High School.
Yes.
They suspended 12 students for going to town. They according to the rules of conduct, they suspended them, so they demonetized them, that they should go and write exams from town. Within days, order came from the municipal director that they have to be, we were told that they had to be reinstated. The headmaster and the management were not happy. Because if you know the process that a school goes through before you suspend students, and the electoral committee is set up to investigate the students are called before the committee. The report of the committee is sent to the board. The board will approve before it is done. It's suspension. But
Kofi, the municipal director is not a politician, is he?
Who appointed the municipal director of education?
Okay, go on.
Yeah, so
but it's quite the assumption to make, though, wouldn't you say so?
No, what I'm saying is that interfering in the work of the headmaster, whose job it is to ensure that the children learn book and learn sense, and held accountable for that. If you interfere in his work, how can you go and hold him accountable? That's why I'm saying that let's leave the headmasters to manage the schools in accordance with the guidelines and regulations that the GES, their employers, have given them. But when they exact punishment and they don't break procedures, there's no point in interfering in their punishment. When that happens, you weaken their resolve to instill discipline in the school, and you embolden the students to become more or less, to have the feeling of being above the law. That is what we don't want to promote, because these are the little undercurrents that leads to this so-called impunity that the students are displaying, and we shouldn't encourage that.
All right. Thank you very much, Kofi Asare, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, doing awesome work in the Ghanaian education space. Ni, please wrap up.
I think that, you see, there are matters that we can be apolitical about. As we sit here today, there's absolutely no way that NDC can take credit for free SHS. It's not possible. It is the product. Is it unlike the NPP who take credit for the university who tried to steal the university in the Eastern region?
Needless stay on track.
When we say that. Stay away. It's when something is not ours, we don't appropriate it. You understand? That's the difference between the NDC and the NPP.
You have 6 minutes.
What the president does not want to do is to take the responsibilities and the inadequacies that come with the implementation. And I don't understand. You have a fantastic policy. Its implementation has been beset with problems. We are giving you alternatives as the opposition. We are telling you that you need to increase access in terms of infrastructure, in terms of teachers, in terms of...
Dr. Kuba, let him speak, please. Let him speak.
I'll keep quiet and wait for him to...
He's finished.
You see, this is a national policy that touches on the lives of children. And so when you are being given policy alternatives that are seeking to improve what you are doing, what you do is to humbly listen and take these additional measures on board so that at the end of the day, our children's future will not be mortgaged. You have a situation where you've added past questions. Professionals are telling you that what you have done is to divert the attention of the students from doing what they are supposed to do, which is critical studying. You understand? Give them enough teachers, give them enough time, stop this double track, abolish it, get back to our regular cycle of timetable for our education, give them adequate textbooks and teachers and all those things, and at the end of the day, quality will be restored. Quantity is good, but we cannot sacrifice our educational structure and policy on the altar of quantity over quality. That is what the former president John Dramani Mahama seeks to bring back on board. Quality. That is what is missing in the implementation of our current problem. And I want to appeal to the Ghana Education Service. Beyond the punishments, they must get psychologists to talk to the students so that they'll be reoriented. That indeed, unfortunately, the president has misled them with this issue of the past questions. He is sorry, that was not his intention, and that the correct thing for them to do is to focus on what their teachers have taught them. They should focus on what it is that they are in school for. Forget about these leakages and all that. And at the end of the day, if they work hard, I'm sure that success will be theirs.
Thank you very much. You don't have
30 seconds.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
We have priest. We are the Archdiocese of the Anglican Church in Seychelles has Ghanaian priests that are doing well. We've had Ghanaian teachers there. We've had Ghanaian fishermen. You've had WHO representatives from Ghana.
So there are Ghanaians in every sector.
Yes,
really?
in the justice, in the judges. We've had Ghanaian judges excel in Seychelles over the years.
I'm told the name Prampeh, which of course comes from Otumfo Nana Prampeh, is still a huge name and a name that is highly revered in Seychelles.
Yes, and it gives any Ghanaian going there a lot of pride.
Ghana has been good to you. Has Ghana given you a wife?
Oh, in fact, they give me a wife. They give me children and grandchildren.
Yeah. Oh,
I can
wow.
assure you. Yes. It's important to note that Elmina, it was the Portuguese who was living there in that corner. It's important to mention they were living there in that corner, and they were not allowed to go inland because it was a trade center, and they were allowed to be there. And unfortunately, we are removed from Ghana by the Dutch.
comprehensive news. The City Newsroom at 8 p.m. on City TV is your most engaging news bulletin on TV.
It's a very oh, that's too bad. The youth are still throwing stones. They are still throwing stones here into our direction. And can I come in? I want to come in. Okay.
Telling your stories better with correspondence covering every corner of the country.
Getting access to potable water is a daily struggle for residents of Kakichekopi and Balekopi communities in the Ada East district of the Greater Accra region.
City Newsroom at 8 p.m. Very fluent with issues that concern you.
This is quite a car for Mr. Rabbi. Someone is in a bread. Told you kind of it's 1 week. What do you say?
Is it unfair? What all this? What all this? We are dying! We are dying! We are dying for Choco!
With City Newsroom, your community is now connected.
In this our community, all of us we are very sorry about this school. If we went to see the children, they are so small, even my grandchildren are there, my grandsons are there. If they come out from the school, how do you say?
Every day at 8 p.m., City Newsroom is live on City TV.
About to change your Sunday night for the better.
Prophecy is not for useless things and loose, frivolous things. Prophecy is for weightier matters.
We will bring you the most captivating guests and explore the most amazing stories. Your way to stardom was really planned.
Calculated.
Wow.
I wanted like a specific future for myself. First, I'm gonna gain my popularity. Second, help must come from it.
Yes.
Like upside down like this.
You know it, you know it, you know it. We will dazzle you with real life situations and examine mind-blowing topics.
Fabian says he can pay me. I want to show him cash. Good one.
So is that what it's about?
Oh yes, I'll prove to this guy. Cash.
Draw your swords. Deuteronomy 8:3. Charge.
Join me, Frema Binyame.
And me, Ato Kwamna, every Sunday at 7 p.m. on City TV. Are you ready?
Upside Down, every Sunday, 7 p.m. only on City TV.
Welcome back to the big issue. We are entering the second phase of our conversation, and that is on the second major issue of the week, the end of the compilation of a new voters register. The EC very, very satisfied with itself and the exercise that it has conducted, and we'll be running through the numbers because in the build up to this, the big question was the Electoral Commission's voters register bloated? And now that we are done, it's a question I think we can somehow answer by ourselves because the numbers are available. What are the thoughts of the political parties? There was a voters registration exercise that was filled with violence and several complaints of intimidation, ethnocentrism and whatnot, but it has come to an end by the mop-up exercise that the EC is undertaking in parts of the country today. But just to take a couple of your messages before I get into that conversation, and the messages have come via the WhatsApp line 0550-585832 and 0549-986-996. Some of you have also sent messages via Twitter handle at City973 via the hashtag the big issue. Okay. So, good morning, Godfrey. Please ask Dr. Koboy if the NPP government can promise us citizens that they will not influence WAEC to adjust the marking scheme so the results look good. Here you go.
So it's not possible.
Nipako will tell you that it's very hard to deal with WAEC in that regard. So, you can rest assured. Also, a couple of messages that have come through, well, a lot. My problem is, what work do these students do that they are able to raise these huge amounts of money to buy Apple? Is it possible parents were also aware and give out money to such students for their Apple agenda? On the issue of insults to the president and GS, I believe this case learns it from our politicians and are doing that in an individual capacity now. This is Ni from Tema. Those lead papers were original, but because it came out on WhatsApp and became a topic of discussion, WAEC changed the questions to avoid the issues. They had a hand in it. This is coming from Lazarus from Sunyang. Kobe from DC. Kobe, I've told you keep your messages clean. I will not read your messages. Jones, how do we turn to blame students when all indications point to the fact that the president's students are just going to show up and pass their exams? Happy birthday to my son, Edem Kofi Adobo. This is from Jones Adobo in. I don't know where you got that impression from, Jones, but happy birthday to your son, Edem Kofi. Please check if each student was given a full set of needed textbooks. If you don't have textbooks and you are provided with past questions, you'll be forced to use them as study material. This is coming from George in Tema. Kwesi Reynolds in Aguna Dobin says, there is no justification for the gross insubordination exhibited by some SHS students. These are children who have had it all rosy in their secondary school education, and we least expect such recalcitrant attitude from them. It should be known to all that the policy is free HSS, but not free grades. And to those gleefully saying the policy has been poorly implemented, they should know that every program comes with its mishap. But going forward, you identify those issues and prune them. Okay, Scatter from Kofordia says, Godfrey, it seems Dr. Koboy and other people don't really understand the impact of the government giving away the past questions to the students. All this while we have been in school, no government has ever bought PASCO for anyone. So if the government should do it this time, they are putting ideas in the students' head that this could indirectly be the questions, owing to the fact that this is the first batch of free SHS students, and they know that the government wants to make a point with them. So students would definitely concentrate on the PASCO and nothing else. So going to the exam hall and meeting something else would definitely anger students. I tell you, this is caused by the government. Good morning, Mr. Akuto. I teach in an SHS and I disagree with the behavior of the students, but there is something fundamental about what they did. They didn't talk about their teachers who directly contacted them, but the president. It seriously tells us about the thinking they had before the exams. They also hear the comments made by people on social media. Dr. Koboy should know teaching people isn't about just philosophy and assumption, but a reality. These students have not learned well. The shifts disturbed them. Well, Nick, you also have a responsibility as a teacher. You can't remove yourself from the equation, Nick. Good morning, Godfrey. This is Jeremy from Spintex. WASI exams have been written each year within the Akufo-Addo administration, but this is the first time we are seeing students misbehaving. Why is that? Particularly because of the political elements attached, where the president wished them well, but this particular batch should do well to shame doubters. That makes it political. The government then further goes on to buy them math sets, pay registration fees, and provide them past questions. They are just fanning the flames. That's what made these students feel entitled, because it comes across that the president is counting on their performance. And finally, Evans from Gulf City says, isn't it amazing that government will provide students of my village with past questions where for 3 years they've been begging for textbooks, laboratory equipment, and other basic facilities? Our education system is focused on producing exam-passing humans instead of problem solvers. I'm disappointed in the students, but more disappointed in the government for the cheap politicization of our education, which is backfiring now. So keep the messages coming through. I will get to them in a bit. Let's deal with the EC. Now, before the EC undertook the exercise, they put out a projection and also put out a couple of statements. One, we knew that they said the machines were obsolete. Then they finally got to the point where they said the register was not credible. And then later on did say that the register was bloated. The projection was that they were going to register 15 million people. they ended up registering 16.6 million. But according to the Electoral Commission, but for them compiling the new register, they could have ended up with almost 20 million people on the voters register. And this was said by Dr. Bosman Asari. He said the roll could have contained over 19.8 million votes if the new voters register had not been compiled. And the regions that led the roll, Accra, of course, 3.4 million persons registered in Accra, which is a significant increase from the previous election. Ashanti 2.9, the Eastern region 1.5 million. I'm just rounding up the numbers. Sorry. Central region, Western region, and Northern region. So Accra tops, followed by Ashanti, Eastern, Central, Western, and then the Northern region. Then the other regions follow. So all in all, 16.6 million voters. And the EC is still conducting a mop-up exercise, and we're also told that for the Ghanaians who are stranded abroad, the EC says they are going to make room for them to register if they do indeed get the opportunity to get here. But the law says you have to register 50 days before the election. If you are not able to meet that deadline, fine, you will not get on the electoral register. So let me start with you, Nikpapo Samad. Your party had significant issues with this process from its start to its end. EC says 16.6 million, could have been 19.6, but for their decision and insistence that was bloated and needed to deal with it, and they've been vindicated by the numbers that we have seen. Overall thoughts on the numbers?
You see, it's a post facto attempt to rationalize clearly what is causing financial loss to the state. And I think that the signals that have been clearly given by my party is that definitely there must be a forensic audit of this particular Electoral Commission.
A forensic audit of
yes.
what? When financial?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. We have indicated it very clearly that the Mensa-led Electoral Commission are prime candidates to be prosecuted for financial loss to the state.
Why?
Oh, obviously. They have absolutely no basis for having conducted this particular registration exercise.
When they tell you that the voters register is almost 3 million voters short.
These are all just post facto rationalization.
But you can't just say
in 2016, I'm coming. In 2016,
go on.
Ghana had a population of 28 million, roughly, and a voter population of roughly about 14 million. In 2020, Ghana has a population of 31 million and a provisional voter population of 16.6. 54% of the 2016 total population of Ghana was 15 million, thereabout. And 54% of the total population of Ghana in 2020 is 16 million, 16.7. So there was absolutely no basis for this argument that the voter thing was overbloated and all that. But look, the water has passed under the bridge already. We've passed that stage. So all these arguments will become moot anyway. But I'm indicating that an NDC government would definitely cause a forensic audit to be conducted into the activities of this Electoral Commission, because what they have done is a complete waste of national resources.
Why? How do you say it's a waste?
Let's move on. I say let's move on. We've given the indication, and so that one is clear. And we've told Madam Minister that she will not be saved by this attempt to rationalize whatever it is that she's done. We've told her, and that is clear. Okay. My General Secretary has stated that openly. Now let's move on to the figures, because I just gave you that I just gave you the statistics, that in 2016, the voter population, you understand, in 2016, we had a population of 28 million. We had a voter population of 40 million plus. In 2020, we have an estimated population of 31 million and a provisional register of about 16.6.
Yes.
You understand? So 54% in 2016 gave us a voter population of about 15.1.2. In 2020, 54% of that same this thing. It's about 16.7. So it has there's been no shift whatsoever in this particular term of an alleged over bloating or whatever it is. But we've passed that. So as I said, we've moved on. Whatever arguments we are going to make on this table, we'll have. It's just an academic exercise because as it is now, we have a new voters register. Whether we like it or not, we are going to contest election 2020 with a new voters register. So any argument in the past is of no relevance. So I won't even waste time on that. What I've just indicated is that they are definitely candidates for an investigation. Now, at the end of the day, we've seen interesting statistics coming out of the 2020 registration. We still have 2 days to go. That is today and tomorrow. So persons who did not have the opportunity for whatever reason to register, I'm sure Okoboy and I will join forces on this one to say that go to the district office, right? The closest district office to register. Okoboy, you don't agree with me?
After demonstrations,
to go and register so that you can partake in removing this obviously super incompetent government. But on my observation, I think that I must commend Ghanaians for the overwhelming show of desire to participate in this particular exercise. It was dangerous. I mean, you have this COVID situation, but we have demonstrated a tenacity as a people. And for the first time, I think that we may not be surprised if we have a 90% turnout in this election. We normally averagely had 70. The reason why I say this is, between now and December, let's even look at the number of people that potentially could die, because obviously dead people cannot vote. But if you look at the fact that between now and December and the closeness of the election, we are having this amount of people turning out to take the voter ID card. There's definitely a desire there, or an express desire there, to participate in the election. So I will not be surprised if we have probably an over 85% turnout in this particular election. But I'm putting it at 90%. I won't be surprised, because it seems that people really have a desire to take part in this particular election. Normally, if you have the voter registration done in a year that is not a non-election year, then normally people take the card for, other reasons other than necessarily seeking to take part in an election. But because there was such an overwhelming interest and all the things that led to the registration exercise, the court actions and all that, I think there's a very serious desire to take part in this particular election. And it is interesting. We'll see what the results will be. I'm particularly interested in the fact that Greater Accra has recorded such a large number of registrants. Is it because persons didn't go to their hometowns to go and register? What will be the dynamics it will have in respect of the results that will turn out? Okoboy is here in Greater Accra. I'm sure he will be very interested in the numbers that happened in Greater Accra. If you look at the fact that there's been a significant increase in Central Region as well, if you look at, I think, because there's the division of Volta and the other new regions, OT, so you could say that if you add OT and Volta, you could have a rough idea of what the numbers are there. It's interesting. I think that by and large, the turnout and the party that is able to get its supporters to, go out there to vote.
We'll get there. I have a couple of questions for you, because your party kept on harping about intimidation and disenfranchising people and all sorts of things. 16.6 million. If you look at region by region, the numbers are significantly quite close. In certain regions, others that they've gone up. Do you feel the numbers justify the points your party was making?
Oh yes, obviously. We've had to fight. As my general secretary said,
the soldiers are still on the ground. They are still guarding the borders, doing their job.
It is. That's why I said, whatever it is, it's post registration observations. You understand? So, really, if I were to trumpet those issues again, those issues have already been...
You don't need to trumpet the issues, but I'm saying your party's argument was that, look, this process is flawed because the government has put in place certain measures that will disenfranchise Ghanaians, that is intimidating some people in certain parts of the country.
Do you know what it took for our party people and the parliamentary candidates and that's what I'm saying, that
not party people at this point, Ghanaians.
Yeah, Ghanaians, yes. But do you know what it had to take for us to get our people to be able to fight whatever had gone on, including facing off soldiers? We have videos. You've seen those videos where we had our youth organizer, our general secretary, having to face off soldiers. You understand? With the threat of even some of them at the threat of their lives, to be able to clear roadblocks for persons who were Ghanaians to be able to go and register. And you say that those were. That's why I do not. That's why I'm saying that. Look, at the end of the day, whatever has happened. But due to the resilience of Ghanaians who are clearly ready to vote out this particular government, whatever it took for us to be able to get them to register, they've registered. I'm not here to rehab what has happened, but the videos, and we've had press conferences after press conferences where we've listed out the brutalities that have happened to our supporters and Ghanaians, the murder of a citizen of Banda. I mean, the brutalities that have happened, the minister's behavior at Kaswa.
But people didn't stay away.
That should tell you. That should tell you.
So now you are taking credit for people showing up to register? Is that what you're saying?
We are taking credit for being able to stand up to the machinations of this government, who were clearly hell-bent on. Look at what happened in the Volta region, on the border towns. The clear use of abuse of the military to be able to get persons on the border towns to be intimidated from not voting. They had to take the chiefs. Look at what happened in my dear friend's old constituency, where in the middle of the night, the parliamentary candidate for Lejekuku was kept in his office for 4 hours. Imagine you being kept at a position for 4 hours. You were locked up. His shop, his filling station was locked up for 4 hours. He had to take the youth of the area to be able to rally there, to force the military to have to give him.
Did they ever find out what happened? What was that about?
It's been a foolish case. I mean, clearly when they went to the regional CID, what happened? Nothing. So when you use them, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to use this as a platform to harp what obviously was a deliberate attempt at intimidating our supporters and our people from being able to. We've done. For me, what I'm proud about is the fact that no matter the intimidation, we have made it clear that Pharaoh shall go. And clearly, Ghanaians are just waiting for December 7th to kick to retire our dear president. I mean, he's done what he could do. I mean, no president can come and do everything. He's done his part. We'll put him on a nice retirement. The package is good. And then we'll bring back President John Dramani Mahama to continue with his visionary projects and everything. So I'm very, very happy. Despite everything that they've done, I mean, Okoboy has tried his very best, in the constituency, the soldiers and all, but I just didn't want to kick him too hard today because he's my junior. But obviously, he tried. I mean, to intimidate our candidate in the area. It didn't work. They arrested our constituency chairman, and it didn't work. I mean, these are things that have happened in almost every stronghold that we can. I mean, our candidate in Ketu South suffered the same thing. You've had situations where the same areas where you have machines not being able to work. In fact, on one day, one of the Saturdays, it was terrible. The whole of Greater Accra, and especially and it happened only in the areas, the police stations that had our strongholds. The entire system just shut down on a Saturday, and it was so frustrating. I sent pictures out, I sent audios out in my constituency Trubo. They are set, you can tell your polling stations and where your strengths are. In Greater Accra, it was sad. The EC has not even added one day. That Saturday that the entire system shut down, they've not added one day to that. But whatever they do, I still can confidently tell them that Ghanaians have registered. For me, that was what is satisfying.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That I'll come to Dr. Okoboy. I'll take a quick break. Take Dr. Okoboy's thoughts on this. Take Franklin's thoughts also on the electoral register 16.6. And if you register, tell me how you feel. And now that we know what the numbers are, what they mean, the NDC had made some points before and during the process? What do the numbers tell you from where you are? I think you should be right back.
Shop online, get free swipes, and enjoy greater security with a card that turns banking on its head. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
Welcome back. That was a quick break. Let me talk to Franklin Kujo, president of Imani. He's also been on the EC. He studied the numbers from day one. They made certain projections at Imani. Franklin, what did you make of Dr. Bosman Asari's press conference on Friday, where he said, but for the compilation of this new voters register, which has us at 16.6 million, we were going to hit almost 20 million with the old voters register if we had just done a limited registration exercise?
Well, thank you very much. I don't know where my good friend Dr. Asari was getting those figures from, but the statistical analysis was so weak listening to that. I mean, it's just, it's laughable, really, to think that the statistical analysis that he was making was as if the whole conversations around the consistency around the numbers we've always had since we started registering people to vote was pariah to the 20 million figure. I mean, look, if you study the scenario, the trend carefully, what numbers we have seen right now is not necessarily different from what would have been exacted anyway. So I don't know where he got that figure from. And in fact, they were also relying on some so-called 800,000 or so people whose numbers have been exempted. Now, statistically, that is also very weak because the presumption is that because they already exist on the old register and they were challenged anyway, you cannot be suggesting that they would have been added to the new rule. I don't know how that statistics works out. This is basic mathematics. So I don't know. I think the push to make it look as if they've been triumphant on the face of what the statistics was bound to give us is rather unfortunate. I mean, this attempt to justify the expenditure of almost $150 million on a totally needless exercise is quite worrying. I mean, what are they talking about? They are getting almost 53%, right? 53%. I thought they were going to get about 49% because they suggested that, if I remember that it was very late in the day where they suggested the voter roll was even bloated. Those were not the initial arguments.
That's true.
So late in the day when we had pointed out that, look, countries we compare with, maybe Tunisia, about 60%, Cape Verde, which is also closer to Ghana, about 65% of the voter roll per population was identified. It wasn't particularly out of this world. And indeed, in the case of Ghana, because we are much more politically aware, in fact, in countries where you see the voter population trumping almost 55%, in some cases 70%, is because of the level of awareness. And if you look at the data they themselves have gathered so far, look at the areas which had increased voter roll. Look at Accra, right? Would they suggest that there was overvoting? The voter roll was bloated in Accra the previous year. So all of a sudden, about 1 million people or so that have been added to the roll in the Greater Accra region couldn't have been added because the previous register was bloated. The argument that the voter region, for instance, has been known to be a hotspot for bloated register is equally laughable. In fact, if there's any consistency, the voter numbers have always been depressed ever since we started undertaking voter rolls. I think it just marginally increased this time around as a result of the rather activist approach that was adopted by the Votarians because they felt disenfranchised by the levels of military presence, which was intimidating enough. I mean, nobody can tell me that this process was so sacrosanct that a process which had almost 40% of persons being vouched for which Kodio has suggested that almost 30% of the polling stations had contractor guarantors of dubious character. I mean, to think that you wanted a sacrosanct process because you went every length to ensure both the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary collectively decided that they were going to make sure that certain persons who held certain cards were going to be expunged from the roll, and in the process, delegitimizing birth certificate. All of a sudden, you end up with a register which has close to 40%, their own data, the EC's own data, almost 40% being guaranteed. Of course, as Kodio suggested, a lot of those are dubiously guaranteed for. So it is not necessarily the fact that you are going to wave the triumphant flag to suggest that you have a credible register. I don't even believe that. So the point to be made is that, look, first of all, it's just statistically funny, laughable, to suggest that because you got 16.6 million votes, which is not ended by the way. But if you added those that were supposed to have been registered for Ghanaians abroad, that number was easily trump 17 to 17.5 million, which would have been the normal projections anyway. In any case, how many days did the previous registration process take? 40 days. You are using how many days to do this one as well? At least there's a plus or minus 5 days or so. I'm not even referring to that. The fact of the matter is that they've tried as much as they can to appear to be justifying the fact that the whole register was bloated. I mean, come on, please. The data has been very, 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 very candid with us. Anytime we've had voter registration, it's been consistent. It's either 1.2 million people would have been added, or sometimes 1 million. So if the previous row was 15.7 million, and your own additional registration got you 16.8 million, and you have come back to the same position just a little under a year on, all of a sudden you are telling us that it was because of your hard work that your numbers are closer to the same registration process you supervised to get 16.8 million. And now this figure is most likely to trump that 16.8 million. So we should clap for you. In any case, you claim that you set a limit of 50 million. Now that you've gone beyond 16.50 million, are you now going to say that your predictions were so wrong that almost 1.6 million people are ineligible? But you said you should clap for you. See the inconsistencies in the argument. Look, this whole process was so shambolic. And to murder the process going further, actually the word is not to murder. In order to make the process much more shambolic, you had deployed military people and made voting registration centers across several parts of this country look like war zones. I mean, I don't understand it. Just a simple registration, and you have ministers firing gunshots and all kinds of things. So the level of intimidation which we witnessed was pretty much countered by the levels of, the resilience as well. And look, I must congratulate Ghanaians, because it looks to me that in the face of what was clear suppression, yes, they actually stood their grounds.
You think there was suppression?
Yeah, but that was exactly what was intended. I mean, look, we saw videos of. I'm not sure you didn't see. I'm sure you saw some of them as well, right? Look at even ministers of state. In fact, assigns of this government, MCEs were busily going around registration centers, making sure that persons who sounded and looked like Voltarians or Togolese were taken out. I mean, to think that statistically, Togo people were going to conspire with their cousins across the border to bus almost 1 million Togolese into Ghana in order to bloat the register. It's just unthinkable. You know how much the levels of logistical arrangement that we require across those borders. So I think it is very important that we are not seen as the people to be dividing our front, because to subject a simple electoral register to all these claims about imported voters and what have you, it's quite farcical, and it doesn't help the future of this country in terms of its peace and its stability.
All right.
So I was quite appalled that we had these incidents in the first place. So the point to be made again and emphasized is that it is just statistically incoherent. In fact, it's annoying to hear by people who know statistics. And I know Dr. Koboy is vested in statistics. He will not yield to this funny calculations that have been made.
Okay.
To suggest that your own figures that you said you're going to get 50 million, you went overboard by 16.8 million. As if that in itself does not deserve a whole, what's it called? A whole essay to be written by the EC as to why the projected 50 million and went beyond and eventually got close to almost 17 million. That's the starting point to understanding that this whole attempt to make the old register sound bloated was quite inconceivable and unfortunately quite ridiculous.
All right. Thank you very much, Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa. Let me come now to Dr. Bernard Okoboy, who also has a close working relationship with the EC. For those of you who don't know, he serves on a couple of their committees as well, so he's very much in tune with what the EC does. But Franklin does end on an interesting note that the EC had projected, and projections can be exceeded or not. But 15 million and 16.6, that's a significant gap.
17 million.
Thank you very much, Godfred. Let me start by saying that Franklin mentioned that about 40% of the registrants they were vouched for by guarantors.
Yes, 6 million according to the EC. 6 million
people. He even used the word dubious. You know, he doesn't.
Hang on. I qualified it. What I said was that the data from the EC's own data is showing that almost 40%. I think at the last count it's about 37.6%. Right? Now, Codio, which is on the ground, has found out that 28% of the polling stations had dubious guarantors to the extent that they call them contractor guarantors.
All right.
Okay. Thank
Point
you.
is well made.
I'm not saying that all the 6 million people are dubiously guaranteed.
No problem. But
significantly.
Your point is made, Franklin. Don't worry. Your point is made.
But he didn't go that tangent of mentioning Kodio's figure for nothing.
Well, he's clarified it.
I get it. It was mentioned to more or less let you know that that category, when they vouch or when they go into guarantee, do the guarantee for people, it is possible to have people who are not necessarily Ghanaians. I mean, people raise that argument.
Yes.
But from before even we started the Fourth Republican Constitution,
we've had guarantee system.
Absolutely. And if there was possibilities then, the possibilities exist now. What you do is to put in place measures that will improve on the assurance that you are trying to keep out people who are not Ghanaians. Now,
but on that, wouldn't you also say that Franklin, calm down. I'll give you time. Don't worry. You don't have too much time.
Tell him to write.
You write. Let him finish. I was just say, but we've also never had a situation with 6 million. That's the second highest.
No problem. All right. So going into this, you have our 60%, 60 plus using the Ghana card. There's about 2% using passports and all that. Now, this is the only registration done in this country that had proof of citizenship as one of the key criteria that you must satisfy. In fact, if you look at the other CIs, none of them made proof of citizenship as a key criteria. This is the only register that guarantees a Ghanaian election and not a West African election. In fact, the last CI, which even mentioned ID cards that will show that you're a Ghanaian, that provision was made or undone by a manual that was printed backdoor, which said that all those things were only a recommendation. And these were argued in the court, the Supreme Court, where the NDC and their lawyers tried to make the point that even in previous CIs, there was proof of citizenship, so the register was credible. And Odami showed the manual that the EC had given to their officers, which said that even those provisions, they should only, it's a recommendation, it's not compulsory. So the point I'm making is that when all is said and done, what we know is that the probability that this register guarantees a Ghanaian election based on the things you have to go through, it's higher than the previous that we've had. And by the way, like you said, I work on the entity committee of the commission. One of the key arguments made by the commission in going for a new register was one, they said that migrating the data to their new systems, cloud and all that, might lead to a loss in some of the data or the individuals. 2, they raised issues with the quality of fingerprints, that because of the deterioration of the machines over time, some people they might not succeed in the
being recognized.
Absolutely. And so their reasons were seriously technical for having a new register. Now, in the political domain, we also in our discussions had other reasons we brought on board. There were quarters that raised issue with the numbers in the register and said the numbers were huge compared to the rest of the population. There were even those who said that the manual verification was too much. In fact, there were close to 40,000 people that had to be verified manually by the old register or system that we had. And if you look at today's provisional figures, 61,000 plus could not give their fingerprints. Now, these 61,000 will be verified with a facial recognition feature and not a manual one. What it means
wait. Which facial recognition feature is that?
Godfrey, don't you know that this particular one we had, it also, apart from the biometric fingerprints, it has it captures the...
yeah, they took a photo.
Yes, and that, but it's clear from the beginning. There is a facial recognition feature of the system used today. Please,
let him finish, please.
You know, and sometimes it's sad. As for the end, once they start something, everybody follows. They were saying that the biometric is better than the facial. Who has contended this? The Electoral Commission were the first to say that biometric is the first point of call. But if someone, 61,000 Ghanaians, couldn't get their imprints on the system, we did not go and call Nipato to come and say, oh, this is Okoboy. We went for a facial feature. Whose reliability is way higher than calling an individual on the street to come and say that, oh, this is Asimasi, we know him in Teshi Lejokuku. So the point I'm making is that most of the claims or the reasons given for going for a new register have more or less been settled by the numbers we've seen. And by the way, when the NDC is not for a particular project, they will first object to it, citing reasons, which most of the time are hollow and are exposed at the courts. Like if you look at this register, use the old cards. If you don't use it, means you want to disenfranchise people. What happened? The numbers we are seeing show that it was hollow. The court threw their arguments away, and the citizens have, look, we have to learn lessons as politicians. The NDC was most confident few weeks or months to the 2016 election. Their confidence was extreme compared to even 2012 and 2008 about winning the election. Yet, they lost with the most significant margin compared to 2012 and 2008. Look at the two extremes. Being most confident, losing with the most margin. It tells you that they were not in a real state. Reality was not on them. Unfortunately, the same reality check they've not learned from it going into various programs. Look at this registration. COVID. People are scared. It's dangerous. Look at what happened in this country. There is one clear lesson for the politician. The citizen is discerning. The citizen knows their civic responsibility. The citizens have a mind of their own. And that is why, although we've had over 150,000 registrants in Lejokuku, I have come. I know what it takes to win majority of the citizens. It takes programs. It takes projects. It takes relationship. And that's why what the president said today. Those who use the Lekma road.
That you had to go on a demonstration for.
Absolutely. I didn't go on a demonstration. There were people who expressed, how do you call it, concern about the state of the road.
You are one of the people, so you...
No, but the bottom line is that... The bottom line is that if you live in real terms and not in the virtual world, like Ekufuado and his government does, irrespective of the numbers you see, you continue to be focused to touch more lives, reach more families, and make greater interventions. That is the only way not to be surprised at the polls. What happened at this registration should teach the NDC a lesson. That when you shout from your headquarters or you go on Facebook and tell people that COVID is around, so don't go. You tell people that people are going to... Look, this talk, frankly, it's unfortunate that Franklin said there was an attempt to intimidate people from a particular region or other. Look.
Wasn't there?
I'm coming.
Sad.
I have met an NDC MP who told me that some of his colleagues called and said, but the soldiers are in your place. What is happening? He said, so what? But you have to get them out and say, why? He's met with the soldiers. They've had a conference as to what their mission is. Protecting the integrity of our territorial integrity is not a crime. If you are a citizen, You live in this country, and there are even 100 soldiers in your neighborhood. Who can stop? Look, if there's one citizen who has been stopped from registering in this particular process, Nick Papo should present it to the Supreme Court. The Electoral Commission should be urged to register the person.
Look at it.
No,
let him go on.
The point I'm making is that it is quite cheap to claim that somebody is being disenfranchised. The Electoral Commission, and we have a history to show, individuals, final markings, took the commission to court. The judges asked them to go back and do the right thing. They are not gods on their own. And that is why anytime it is not for nothing that anytime the NDC goes to court, they are flawed. They are flawed because most of their arguments are populist. They are arguments that are supposed to appeal to people's emotions. The best way to show that you love votarians, to show that you love any region in this country, is to let your programs and policies show. This very cheap way of trying to claim to speak for regions because you think usually your votes come from there should be discouraged. And I'm saying this because I have lived it. I have relatives who used to vote for NDC in the past. I genuinely asked them, why do you vote for this party? They couldn't. And you know what came out? It's because over the years, some people have convinced them that it's like family or has a kotoko. This, once you are from Teshin, this one is yours. It's a heritage. This one belongs to our brothers and sisters who come from Ashanti or other places. So I remember telling my own mother that, come on, this cannot be true. So the point I'm making is that, yes, some people deliberately go on this enterprise because one of the best ways to get someone for life without even helping them is to claim that they matter but others hate them. And we should not go on this tangent because there are two effects which are all negative. One, if many people get hooked onto this particular medicine and propaganda, they can be denied of development and yet end up voting for the people because it's a toxic medicine. The other one is that it is easy to get people who are hooked on this medicine to harm others, thinking that they are the enemy. And I've always insisted, the enemy cannot be the NDC or the MPP. The enemy is the poverty, is the lack of access to tertiary, secondary education, is the lack of proper shelter, is the lack of proper care at the hospitals. These are the things we must deal with. And all this region, why do you mention only voter? There are many borders. There are borders along Doma and my boss's area. But there are borders
you can mention voter because you think
you're voting for the place.
No, but yes, we had heard some members of your party say that the numbers in the voter region had the numbers in the voter region had always did not match. There was a perception that your party had, and you didn't say, but we've had other members of your party say. But if you look at the numbers, even with the care that was taken, it's not too much of a difference.
No, the answer is very simple. We those engaged in this political enterprise, there are comments we make. Some are grounded in facts, and when you check them, it's real. There are some which are not properly grounded. Some can also be just claims. So you can hear the NDC say that, we get a lot of votes in Ashanti because even 12-year-olds are registered. Sometimes you go in and it's not like that. But it's because they think their votes don't, or majority of their votes don't come from that place. Sometimes you find, maybe Papa will not go that way, but you can find an NDC element who goes like, in Quran, I'm register. In the same vein, you can find someone who has sympathies for the MPP, saying that, if you go to voter region, apart from our brothers and sisters who are Votarians, some people cross over from Togo to Cameroon. It's possible that that practice is very low. It's also possible that when you go in, maybe it might be moderate. But the fact is that if you subject it to test and it doesn't hold, remember, most of the time, some of these things are not official positions or claim of a political party as an entity. Even Papo here, I don't believe Papo will state anywhere that we get numbers in Ashanti because we register 12-year-olds. But you can get an NDC sympathizer. Exactly. So my point is simple, being that we should learn lessons as politicians. And it is a very intriguing picture. Anytime I watch my TV set, and JM says that, get out and register now, I'm going to, it's like dual personality. Some few weeks ago,
it's okay. Let me give one minute to Nipago and Franklin. Let me start from Franklin. Franklin wanted to say something directly. So Franklin, let me hear you.
That's why James from when he was going to register in Boli.
Let's hear Franklin.
As if he didn't want to do that thing.
Dr. Okubo, let's hear Franklin. Franklin.
First of all, let me just say that those statistical analysis suggesting that the old register had to be 40,000.
Why are you consummated by that point? If you move from there,
No, it is his point to
You've
make.
been there for 1 hour now.
It is his point to make. Let him make his point. Frankly, make your point. Frankly, make your point.
It's like Apple.
It's so infinitesimal that these were not disenfranchised, by the way. They were manually verified. It has to be placed on record. What my good friend now suggests is that number has increased to 61,000. Remember, this is just a registration process, right?
Yeah.
It means that on the day of the voting, that figure could as well be low. So to stand on that point, which was one of the points my good friend Dr. Asari used as reasons to have a new register, and make a claim that the register of about 40 million at the time, or 15.6 million at the time, had only 40,000 persons who could be manually verified, not disenfranchised, and because of that, there must be a new register. Cannot be the same reason why the new register they have now, which has just close to 61,000 persons who have to be, my good friend says, facially recognized or something. It's not the case that we can say that because of that, the register must be changed at all costs. I think it's unfair. The other point I need to make quickly about soldiers is that, you see, every election, you have an integrated security management system. So the military could be part, but not the dominant force. What we saw was that there was deliberate attempt in some parts of this country, but the mere presence of the military to shake people, because there was a suggestion that there were people who were being bused from all over the places. And by the way, this busing phenomenon is another interesting thing that we need to study. What were people busing? Were they busing people from within same constituencies? You see, the reason why within Accra, you didn't see a lot of the busing is because Accra is very well connected. In most parts of the country, which are not poorly networked, and because registration centers are sparsely placed, what it means is that some party people could actually be investing in at least busing people from within the same constituency to do that. There can be nothing wrong with that. It is only when you are busing across regions, that's when there are problems. Then again, so the problem with this country is that we tend to, and I like what Dr. Koboy said, we tend to look at the very minor things, magnify them, and then waste resources. In this process, unfortunately, the process he was part of has wasted $150 million, and he will not be prosecuted because he's an honorable man. But the EC would account in any government that is interested in accountability.
Quality register.
There's no quality register. A register that has over close to 40% of people, who's about 3 million people by estimate are dubiously vouched for. It's not fair.
50% plus.
All right, it's okay. Let me wrap this up with Nikwa Kusama.
You see, I deliberately left the part of the military involvement because we've played it over and over again.
Are you voting?
But you see, what is sad is that for a so-called new register, you're already talking about multiple registration. This is supposed to be a foolproof system where you are supposed to not have multiple registration. How can you have
to bring
multiple
it to the
registration in?
This is an IT guy who is
please.
You go.
You have a new register.
It takes time.
Beautifully done, with all the technological advancements that there can be. And yet we have multiple registration.
Because at any time,
and you see what they brought
let me ask you a question. Let him flow.
What you fail to understand is that once the person becomes registered, he has what we call an accrued right. And so when you seek to what? Deregister the person. You claim that the claim is that, there are some persons whose biometric features...
let him flow.
So you want to cut on this one too? Why would I waste my time in court on this?
Because legally...
yes, of course. No, but the point is, why? Is there anything wrong in going to court?
You have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes. Don't waste it.
Then you have a situation where you have 37.76% of persons being guaranteed.
Yes.
You understand? Before they could be registered.
Yeah.
Whilst you were proposing that, or the ideal situation would have been that if the person had the Ghana card, you understand, then you eliminate the issue of guarantee.
No, Ghana card itself takes into consideration guarantee.
You see, what you fail to get is that when you have the card, you understand. Ideally, if you had the card and you had a guarantorship of maybe 1%, that should have been the ideal situation. So that at the end of the day, your claim that birth certificates and all those things would have been not necessary, would have had some grounding. But when you have had a 37.76% as guarantorship system and you had 60% as Ghana card, what it means is that you've created an opportunity for persons who have made a business out of this guarantorship system. And it has created a serious problem as to whether or not the persons who were guaranteed, because a lot of times the law requires that the person who you are guaranteeing must be a relation or somebody that you personally know. But Kodyo has brought out statistics that show that a majority of the people that did this guarantorship system did not even know the people that they were guaranteed. So it means that this particular register that you have is already flawed.
Okay,
imagine. And so
that's quite a leap.
That's why you want to
quite a leap. But let me also ask you this though. I know your party and Dr. Kobo, your party as well, collected its own data. Have you reconciled it yet?
Oh, we have. We are in the process of dealing. We will come out with a press conference on our observations of the.
I'm interested in just purely the numbers.
That one is an official party issue that will definitely.
Okay, can I make a quick point?
Frankly, yes, quickly.
All right. You see, Neil was referring to the otherwise superior system that was supposed to have replaced the old decrepit system, right? Where he's suggesting that you don't, if this system was so sacrosanct, you probably don't need to do deduplication. The problem though is that the machines they bought are almost similar to the old ones. That's how come they cannot check out people who double register in real time. So they need to connect these things later. So that should have been an added benefit to this. Reason why there was no need
multiple registration.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. No, I will not explain anything. My time is up. My time is up.
When you register, the point you register, if you do it twice, they have to bring it to the center.
Put it together. I know.
So frankly, for the first time, I'm teaching IT.
Thank you very much. Nick Wakwesa, thank you very much, Franklin Kujo, Angel Carbonu, President of Nagrat, Kofi Asare, Executive Director, Dr. Bernard Okoboy. And Okoboy says if you want his shirt, see him in Chambers. Those of you who have been sending me messages that you want the shirt, see him. And Nick Wakwo, there's a message here for you. It says that, dear Nick Wakwo, if you congratulate the EC, will you die? Have a good weekend.
My name is Selina Mensah, the CEO of Jasmine M Clothing. I heard about this project through a friend who told me the Elankwantana Municipal Assembly with the Action Aid are organizing a project that is being funded by the European Union. So he told me the program is being held at Medina Social Welfare. They were organizing a whole lot of training for us. There was tiling, grass cutter rearing, mushroom production, and a whole lot. But I was so much interested in the plastic recycling because it was in some way close to what I do because it had sewing in it. I was very interested in it.
As part of our training by the Slatla project, we were trained in using rubber, that's this pure water rubber, converted them into other usable everyday life, materials or substance or anything. So we were taught to gather them from outside, say the environment. You could, after drinking, you can pack them, but then you can also get them from people who do pick them. So you can buy from them, or then you gather it yourself. And then we were taught to clean them by sanitizing them, and then we cut them into pieces. We add them with fabric and other things, and then we create artifacts.
There was another training held for us where we were taught how to manage our books, how to show our things on social media, a way of marketing it. They taught us how to open a Facebook page, an Instagram page. We opened all those pages. So afterwards, the things we manufacture, we take pictures of them and upload them on our pages. So we've had like clients on our IG page that are requesting for some of our products. So it really helped us through the social media, although we are manufacturing it in this small area, but it is seen throughout the whole world. For now, we are into the use of plastic waste, as in the pure water sachets and the bottles. We use them in manufacturing bags, laptop bags, school bags, aprons, and anything that the rubber can do. We are thinking of manufacturing umbrellas and raincoats as well.
These are some of the bags we do. This is a laptop bag, and this is also a shopping bag. And this is a raincoat.
The recycling program has brought me extra income and more customers, because maybe when someone comes to the shop requesting for a bag and comes to see I'm sewing as well, they request for the bag at the same time for my services as well. So it has really helped me with extra customers and extra income as well.
By picking these rubbers from the environment and all that, we work to clean the environment. So it's eco-friendly, as you can see. Without this Slatla project, we wouldn't have gotten such a skill. Most of us were able to do these things before, but we didn't know how to also market them. They taught us all of this, so we are very grateful.
Now people are very conscious of keeping the plastic waste because they know it brings income to them when they bring it to us. So I see the future so bright for Transworld SGH because we are thinking of hitting the international market as well through our social media platform. In the future, all bags will be made from the pure water rubber, helping the environment as well and bringing us income.
We are very grateful for the project. If it hadn't been them, we wouldn't have gotten this far. We are very grateful. We pray they do more subsequent years. Even we who have been part of it already will still be able to be part because we want to learn more as they produce more.
I want to say a big thank you to Action Aid and Lankwantana Municipal Assembly and mostly to the European Union for supporting this Slatla project. It has really added value to my life. I'm very grateful. Thank you, European Union, for funding this project. Thank you.
Hi guys, once on my way home, I was listening to Jessica and I took Kwamina on 97.3 City FM. They were doing Traffic Avenue. Hilarious stuff. So they were sharing their most embarrassing moments and some callers sent in voice notes recounting theirs. Two stories stood out for me. One, a lady said she went out to fetch water wearing just a piece of cloth, like collar. Or then tomorrow body, yeah, around the neck, yeah. Now she got to a particular spot where there were a lot of guys, and suddenly the piece of cloth said, "Familia, familia, familia," the thing just fell. You can imagine my shock when she said that on that fateful day she didn't wear. She said, "Gudita tihan yemadora ko." I scream, "Father!" Not that I wanted to be there, but it was purely out of empathy, to be honest. Trust me, it was out of empathy. Now, here's the second story that struck me the most. A Ghanaian student in Italy missed his way and got stranded, right? And he reached out to passers-by for help. Everyone ignored him. And he says he felt so humiliated and he was wondering what was wrong, what could it be? Then he looked around him and realized that nearly all the blacks within the precincts were beggars. And so people saw him as a beggar by the sheer color of his skin. So he took out his student ID card and said, "Hey, Boga, I'm not begging. I mean, you understand?" And then he got help eventually, but he felt very bad, just to put it very lightly. His last remarks was that he then understood how it felt like back at home, some of his actions and inactions, how they affected some other people. Guys, look. Even after many years of distinguished public service, the Ghanaianness of some people is questioned by their mere proximity or association with borderline people, accentuated by their inability to speak Twi. Welcome to Backpage. You're on Satirical Show on City TV. My name is Caleb Kuda. Okay, so I went to Benin over the weekend. I heard some French song B. I will share with you, but some book B has come, and it is creating political higgledy-piggledy, you understand? Details loading. Before then, look, the registration thing, there are real foreigners who are trying to get registered. And there are also genuine Ghanaians who are being unduly harassed and humiliated. And it must be, dealt with or addressed professionally. But if you seek to score political points with everything, you would end up scoring an own goal. And that is the story of No Ababase Chondramani Mahama.
We'll make all our people feel that they belong to this country and that some people do not own this country more than others. And so everybody register. Your votes is your power. Let's register and kick out this non-performing government. It's been 8 years of abandoned projects, 8 years of failed promises. One village, one dam has not materialized. All the dams dry up in the dry season. Most districts do not have any factory yet, and yet it's all been propaganda, and propaganda.
Wow. Guys, wait, it's been 8 years of propaganda, 8 years of abandoned projects, 8 years of promises. We need to trace this. It seems we are missing a bell. You will kill somebody. Now, some say in the 8 years he's talking about, he's possibly, built the foundation for whatever he's complaining about. And then someone else has come to build the superstructure on that foundation, and he's complaining. Others say it is an unconscious concessionary speech through prophecy that he has lost to fellow Ghanaian. What do you think? What do you think? Has Mr. Mahama prophesied his own defeat already? Or you think that Akpafo will Akpafo in the elections? If you think that Akpafo shout hallelujah. But if you think it's a prophecy of defeat, shout amen. Hey, look at you. Don't get BP right now. Now, Mr. Mahama says when he becomes president, nobody will die of coronavirus again. Da.
Ghanaians have seen through it, and on 7th December 2020, they are going to exercise their franchise to kick out this government. We will come back, we will restore economic prosperity in this country, and we will protect our people from the coronavirus. Look at the number of people who are dying from coronavirus, the number of people who have been infected. This government has failed in its coronavirus response.
Oh, so cute. All right, John, what exactly is your campaign message? Well, fellow Ghanaian, Akpafo said that he can't bring people back to life, but the economy, he can. So maybe, all right, John, you can promise to bring back the dead to life when you are voted into power, or even before you get the vote, you understand that we can't. Is that what you want to do? Because I'm not getting it clear. Tell us so that we know how to see you well. Now, frankly speaking, I mean, this is one of the most difficult elections to decide on. Personally, I don't know about you. I mean, the level of inspiration is pretty low. And the voter ID card, many are getting it done because in this country, it is very possible to wake up one day only to be told that you have to produce your voter ID card before you can get access to a public toilet. That alone.
Ask you, if you say a lot of middle class people have not registered because of the pandemic, are you one of them?
Yeah, I've not registered.
You've not registered?
Yeah.
Is it because of the pandemic?
Well, partly because it's also out of protest. It's out of protest.
So you are protesting by not registering?
Yes. But of course, there's still one day left.
You are forfeiting your right.
I might change my mind. There's still one day left.
You are forfeiting your right to register. As in, because to be fair, in the final phase, there isn't any crowding. There's social distancing.
See, some of us have taken a principled stance that this direction that this country is going is taking us into what we saw in Ivory Coast with Voltaire. I have been against this from 2016. You can check all my writings in my blog, on Facebook. I'm very, very, very suspicious of this new trend. We have to be very careful as a country.
So you see, I'm not the only one. Almighty nanotechnology, so he's disenchanted. But me, I've done my own because in the future we may need it for public listening. So really, what is all the chaos all about? What all this?
Security for no air frustrating voting. My teacher will be
You listen to Mr. Mahama and you want to get some painkillers. Then you see what the government people are doing. And then you get a feeling that, are they really that scared? Like, does John Mahama really terrify them that much? Seriously, people have real issues that bother them. People are tired of perfunctory functions and empty speeches. You say free water, but the water only flows through the taps when we are fast asleep. And so if you take a walk around 3 a.m.-ish, you will see treated water flooding streets from people's homes because they leave the taps on, not knowing when the taps will flow. There is no water. Echimalio. And people have real pandemics they are dealing with. Real pandemics.
This road is even more pandemic than the coronavirus. This road is too dangerous. Look at me, I'm very sick. I take Uber from this place to Kolebu just because I can't sit in the trotro. Because from here to the junction alone, it can even damage my system. So tell our leaders or whoever is listening to us, we are also human beings. This 2020, they will come around that we should vote for them. We are waiting for them. We are waiting.
They are waiting for you. Bachelor people are waiting for the two of you. You will go and meet them. Okay? But the thing is, Ghanaians will be angry You know, they'll be angry, fine. But when the political leaders show up in their area, they will walk through the rings, go and cheer them, walk back through the mud, high on empty promises, and then after the vote, they channel all their frustrations to journalists. What at 12 a.m. crying here, Frau Kacho say, Omuni lights and crying in your. But seriously, Awoshi Mangwasi residents got really tired of a special pandemic that has since the beginning of this year claimed at least 10 lives, according to the assemblyman.
We have sent numerous complaints to the MC, which he himself has also forwarded to various authorities, according to what he told me. And then actions are yet to be taken on it. This year alone, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 10 people knocked down on the street this year alone.
Now, after the death of the 4-year-old and the protests, more importantly, because the death could have gone without much changing, there have been several of that, the MCE said, oh, they will do the traffic light.
We are going to liaise with the authorities who are in charge of the street lights, because the lights are not being maintained by that assembly. It's urban routes. We will get on them, and then we sit down with them and make sure that they always make sure the lights are working.
But one critical virus that came up is the fact that when the street lights and traffic lights are fixed, people steal the cables and other accoutrements. That's why.
Now that they are fixing it, the onus is now going to lie on the community again, because they'll be stealing the wires and the other thing, they'll be cutting the cables away. You understand? So we are all going to be one and tax ourselves to become watchmen of the project.
Charlie, we are special. See, the way politicians are falling over themselves, ensuring that we get registered, that we vote for them and all that, no. Is that the same way they address burning issues of concern to us, the citizens? Look at what residents of Awutuloye, I'm sure, are dealing with. Just look. Hey.
All I know my degree no higher. You didn't company first one, your company second one. Tia my drivers in a crane fight. E mo ka so mechi e spread ko mango farm for zunum. Since you no an yesu wo ekru no ho. Eno an ye DBC ania ma eno an ye DB wash your cars. Eno an ye DB ye bibia. Bi obola na ngasa na wo de ball. Bola na poison. Se nye poison anka be da na nka nam ewu nsuo no mu no anka bibiu. Poison. Nti one thing is bola na high. O meje akomo njai. Na so me se o ma di so efre ha so akomo sesa. Ni ye ho ntoye.
Oh. That is a community where people live in the 21st century, and that is how we are disposing of refuse. And there is another pandemic. While the chiefs and residents are calling for the relocation of the dump site now, some unemployed youths who are scavengers on a refuse dump site say it will affect their source of daily bread. Yeah, they find bread where Bola is. Just see how these young people who have been promised jobs by both parties before, see how they were chasing the Bola car to get the juiciest part of the Bola so they can get their daily bread. See?
All the system is classified under informal sector. So as we allow them to work, they too, in fact, they are comfortable for the less that they get to feed themselves, and maybe they can make more money to their various sisters and brothers or siblings.
Now, I know people are making money through recycling and things, but this, what are you telling me? And they will come and tell us unprecedented this, unprecedented that. We have created 2 million jobs, 500,000, whatever. Look at that. Just look at that. The politicians do not throw their bola in that place. And that is true. You may argue, but they have a mandate to ensure that Accra, including Awutuloye, becomes just livable. Because the cleaner city thing, we all know, say, it was a scam. We have accepted a pure scam. Simple baller and sanitation issues. Simple baller. We can't. But we are busy fighting. Founders Day, Founders May, Founders Clay, Founders something, Founders whatever.
Imagine if you can get all the understanding on some of the difficult subjects you struggle with in school. As a student, do you feel dissatisfied with how hard it is to figure out a subject you're learning? Or as a parent or guardian, do you worry that your child is struggling to understand some of the subjects in school? Well, now you don't need to sign up for extra lessons or tutors. Simply tune in to Class Act, Mondays to Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. on City TV. Class Act is a show that seeks to enable senior high school students gain a much better understanding of what they learn in school. All you need is a TV, a chair, your notebook, and your pen. Get clarity on subjects such as maths, English, IT, and science. Class Act airs every Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on City TV on DSTV channel 363 and GoTV channel 182. Don't forget your pens, pencils, and your notebooks and tune in to Class Act, only on City TV.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back from that break. Welcome. Why? So about the book I was telling you about, working with Rawlings.
When Rawlings and his entourage got to the entrance and the crowd surged forward to acknowledge their hero, Rawlings got hold of Bede's testicles and squeezed them hard. So hard that he believes he fainted. When Bede recovered, he was outside the Congress Hall and the people were fanning him. Those people did not know what had happened. They only knew he had fainted. Now let me calm down. When I confronted President Rawlings, he only burst out laughing and said, I should have squeezed them harder. Within the small circle of the NDC leadership who had knowledge of this incident, it was referred to in harsh tones as the Abobo Ntoshe affair, or Abobo Ntoshe. Wabubo, the crusher of testicles affair.
No, did I hear Abubo Ntoshe? Oh, Honorable Bezidi, don't mind JJ, okay? Apparently, in the book, he's recorded to have said that giving the chance, like he go nyada, he go. No, it's. I feel your pain. Hey, let me help you cool down with this special song just for you. You understand? It's a song that I returned from Benin with. Enjoy it. Special dedication to Honorable Bede Zidane. I hope you enjoyed that. You know, it's French. We don't really understand what is going on, but what we remember, you understand? I hope you enjoy it. Now, this book will bring matter. It will bring matter. Now, the way Rollins, the stepped Professor Mills, that today, he and Akpavado, their best is new in this life. Oh, no. The man, the step prof, that in working with Rollins, the author says that we are lucky that Prof. Mills called him. Otherwise, he had resigned.
The man, he's not well, so he cannot govern. He won't leave it for somebody else to come and do it. I mean, there are all kinds of innuendos, you know.
Yeah.
And
so that's actually rather deepened the cracks.
Yes, because as I have explained, there was one particular incident which caused President Mills nearly to resign. In fact, he resigned. The only thing that saved this country...
As president?
Yes. The only thing that saved this country was that he called to tell me that he was resigning. And
he spoke in Fanti?
Yes, we used to. What's Majai?
Prof. Taya. Bye. As people that give out funds, as some joining, oh, Sana, they suffer, they endure things. Oh. Rest in peace, okay? I'm sure you have come across calls by President Akufo-Addo to his babies. I mean, free SHS graduates to pass their final exams and shame the devil. Well, Akufo-Addo babies have proven to be babies with sharper and stronger teeth and bigger biceps, beating invigilators left, right, and center. What is amazing is that the headmaster of a school called Bright SHS in Gukurantumi in the Eastern region is said to have, incited students to attack WAEC officials.
This is the headmaster telling the students to stop the exams and they should all come out. Look at him, yeah, that's him. That's him. That's him.
Wow. So how did it all happen? We are told the school is famed for cheating. So as this time they couldn't, the proprietor got agitated, and then what happened?
The proprietor of the school, he got agitated, went to the center, and then on top of his voice, he started shouting, "Stop writing the exams," incited the candidates. "Stop writing the exams. Get out. All of you get out. Stop writing the exam." Then we were with him, because we're also there. Before we realized, the students had surrounded us. Once they surrounded us, then they gave them the command, "Beat them." So they started beating us.
And so they started beating them, including one of the invigilators who sees himself as Macho Kakra. Macho, how was it like?
So my guy there, the macho man passed me, then catch him first, then started beat him, then take him phone, then jail him watch. Charlie, like then they beat you or then they rob you too. So if my guy they go save, we like one blow land for my eye top. Somebody with me at the way like 100 and something kg per 4 grams. Charlie, I not see anything. Then they step my back and things. But I managed to get up where I pull my guy out. Charlie, I had to go see them blood they come out from my eye top. Hey, I make sad. I say, hey, like these kids go kill me. Some foolish death like that.
Wow. So Macho, as you call police, what them do?
Charlie, we call police come like 45 minutes later. Charlie, can you imagine the headmaster, they don't mind themselves. They don't even arrest them. The headmaster just go to the police station, some kiddies, they arrest them for exam malpractice, then release them. I come back from the police hospital, I go back to the police station, Charlie. They don't arrest the headmaster. We inquire from the policeman, I say, oh, then they get pressure from above, say, may they release the man. Hey, Charlie. For the first time yesterday, I regretted being a Ghanaian. Oh, guys, Charlie, this country be messed up. For real, Charlie.
The country messed up, Ampa. Baba now, sir. Kafra. We are told the school is being investigated and is likely to be shut down when the outcome determines so. And the man, the head teacher, has been called by the police, I'm told. Now, the Bright School is not the only school where students have gone bonkers attacking invigilators because they couldn't cheat in the exams. The great Nderu Ajakpa must be turning in his grave because candidates in a school named after him also went bananas, attacking and causing damage to a 6-unit classroom block built to help the double track system in their own school. And the invigilators were too strict, and so they couldn't copy their colleagues in their exams. Wait. Exam malpractices, right? It's not a new thing. But the sheer bravado, the effrontery, and the nerves to attack invigilators, supervisors, and destroy property because invigilators were simply doing a good job? Boy, now that's novelty. Now that's unprecedented, incredible. I'm bamboozled. Hey, you attack an invigilator in an exam hall for preventing you from cheating? This is so wrong. Like, how did you, what can I say? How did we cook it and it didn't be? I can't think far. And to think that some of them got nerves to be twerking here and there. They later held abusive languages at the only president in our history so far as I know it, to have used taxpayers' money to buy past questions for candidates so that they can pass and we will shame our enemies. No. I just realized. See, they almost destroyed someone's eyes totally. Seriously, guys, you need to help me understand this. People say that correct schools like O'Reilly, SHS, Ewutu Winston, and the likes, no, they are conducting themselves very well, you know what I mean? So what is this tomfoolery and sense of entitlement all about? Like, what is it? They said they won't do the science practicals, they won't do it. But if you tracy, you will see them inebriciously twerking somewhere. No, but I don't get it. Were they seriously unprepared? Was it an insensitive decision to make them, sit for their exams in a COVID time when their compeers elsewhere were not? I mean, did the thing affect them psychologically? Would they have gone bonkers if their entrepreneurship went in their favor? I don't really get it. Or they are inspired in some way by Honorable Minister Hawa Kunsin's way of solving issues like Kume Prako kind of things. Like Mebo to pay kind of issues. Because I don't understand. I am gobsmacked.
Hello and welcome to Face to Face. On Face to Face, the hard issues are discussed, often as politicians. But today, we're changing gear a bit to see how we can do on the other side of Face to Face. My guest on Face to Face today, his real name is Kwame Amatafa Chikata. that may mean nothing to you, except maybe the Chikata at the end, but that's not what we are focusing on. His name, which is known to all, is Manifest. M. Dots, you're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you, I'm delighted to be here.
It's good to see you and your cowboy hat. I wish I could wear some.
Is that what we call this, a cowboy hat?
I don't know. I
suppose.
I mean, for Texas people, they usually would wear something.
I think the brims will be longer.
I'm not that.
Anyway, I'm not a hat aficionado either, so let's not
I'm
delve
not
into
that
that.
sophisticated. Why M with a dot and then Manifest? How do you come with such a name?
I mean, musicians are outlaws. What would I look like having a mundane name?
Nobody will remember you.
Yeah, it was also, if you choose something that is, I don't want to say commonplace, but as within common language like Manifest, I think that there needed to be a differentiating aspect to it.
Okay.
And you have to do it in a cool way. You can't put dash, you can't put apostrophe, the to the works.
Sounds good. Yeah. Sounds good. If you're walking on the road and hear someone shouting, would you turn around? Or is it not?
Yes, but before I turn around, that signifies that the person knows me from a different time in my life.
How about if you had Kwame? Because others will usually say Kwame instead of Kwame.
Then I know the person doesn't know me because nobody's ever called me Kwame.
Nobody calls you Kwame?
No, not even my grandmother.
Wow. That's interesting. So you've always been an entertainment person. You were an entertainment prefect. Is that something like you've always been planning to do? You're a dancer? What?
No, absolutely had no idea and no expectation that I could actually choose this as a career path. I mean, I had a passion for the arts, I had a passion for writing, I had a passion for music, but I would absolutely be honest and say until I finished, by the time I was in university or college, I knew it was a possibility in my mind, but even the pragmatism, the idea of how to go about this was, I didn't go to school for music, it was never there. So I think somewhere along the line, what happened was that I took a leap of faith to embrace what would then you would look at as a higher calling, but it's something that I absolutely was not prepared for growing up.
So, but you grew up in a music home. You had a generation of music.
Yes, absolutely. I think.
Were you deliberately, tailored towards music? Maybe you had it, but you didn't see it. So someone decided to groom you in that path. Was there any such thing?
On the contrary, there was my grandfather, who I guess you're referring to. There was there was freedom. He would offer knowledge, but there was and I was surrounded physically by things I could access musically, from cassettes, his field recordings, etc. But I didn't used to pick up the field recording tapes to listen to Ghanaian music. No, I wanted to find blank tapes to record hip hop over.
That's what you were doing.
Yes. So we probably lost some great field recordings because I dubbed over them. So apologies.
But what about hip hop then attracted you? Because you had so much high life at the time, I believe. This would be the Daddy Lumbers, the Prudential era.
Yeah, I mean, I loved high life. I think all of us who grew up with our parents' music, which was high life, we loved it. It's Ghanaian pop music that I think in the 20th century has really made an impact. But every generation seeks to have music of its own and claims that space. And I think that's what hip hop and then later hip life became for us. So it's the agency was given to young people. Hip hop has always been dominated as a youthful voice. So as a younger person, the relation, if you think about some of the early hip hop groups growing up at that time, Crisscross, they were kids. The greats that we know, Nas put out his first major album at 19. So I think in a sense of accessibility, music that speaks the thoughts of the youth, no matter how foreign, would be more alluring. But I love music as a whole, so it wasn't just restricted to loving hip hop.
But do you remember which of the hip hop artists maybe drew you into the culture more? And it could even be a local hip hop person here in Ghana.
Yeah, I think
the closest we had to hip hop was Reggie Rockstone, wasn't it?
But I think we started even listening before that. And there was also things happening at Children's Park where when they were, I can't remember if they called them fun fairs or whatever.
Don't ask me, you were Dadabi, I wasn't even in Accra.
Oh wow, so Children's Park, if West Sutherland has given us this for you to just ascribe it to Dadabis.
Yeah, I mean, for you to shut up nicely, wear kambu, or sneakers as you call them now, and go to Southern. That's usually a Dadabi thing. The hustlers will be hawking kerosene and things. So,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You grew up Dadabi life, didn't you?
Absolutely, a life of privilege I accept.
Thank you, thank you. If I'm going on a road trip, say I'm driving to Keta or Takrady or Kumasi, I would like to slot in a Kandabongo man or a Lucky Dube. What do you slot in?
I could slot in those, Manu Dibango or Lucky Dube.
Okay.
What is actually curious is that because I create the kind of music I create, I spend a lot of time listening to music unlike what I create. So you might, in these current times, you might have me listen to some Cesaria Evora, you know.
Wow.
You can have me going back to some throwback hip hop, some Naughty by Nature,
okay.
or Fugees.
Okay.
A big Coltrane fan. I like also digging into music from Africa in different pop music from Africa from different periods of time. So. I mean, I have a fascination with Fuji music from Nigeria currently as well. Because, so yeah, it does. It depends on how and when you catch me. If it's party time, I'll be listening to some very recent stuff.
In Ghanaian, so if you wanted to just listen to a Ghanaian artist while driving on an hour or two journey, road trip, which one would it be?
I'd definitely put in Obrafo Paimuka.
Oh, you love Obrafo that much?
Yes. I think Obrafo would probably be my greatest Ghanaian rapper inspiration, easily.
I think so too. Me too. That makes the two. Yeah, Paimuka is solid. I love Obrafo.
Yeah, I mean.
And you did a collab. Is that a collab? Is that what you call collaboration with him?
Yes.
How was that like working with someone?
It was surreal. I think it was surreal because as much as you become a creator, you don't undo the past. So you never unlive the admiration and sort of how that music helped you grow up as a human being. So Obrafo and his body of work, or particular Paimuka, is very significant. It made me realize that it was possible. Well, Reggie made us realize it was possible. I think Obrafo let me realize the heights to which you can really take it. And you know, Obrafo is a philosopher. I mean, I think anybody who listens to him knows that.
That's true.
And I think as a person who is a creative and not just interested in entertainment, but just creativity having a greater significance, I think of somebody like Obrafo represented that listening to Paimuka.
Recently, I think he marked the 20th anniversary of Paimuka. That's on his personal level. As a country or as a state that may be interested in pushing tourism, do you think there was something we could have deliberately done about Obrafo? Considering that, I mean, Reggie may have been the guy who introduced it, but I definitely think Obrafo made it popular for me. Do you think there's something we could have done to celebrate him more, perhaps to keep him up there, or to even keep that whole thing called hip life up there?
Well, number one, well, two things. Let me correct you, not correct you, but I think we should also always realize that all of them play their roles.
Yeah.
So we're not going to pit Reggie and Obrafo.
No, that's why I did everybody. That's why I said Reggie definitely bought it. I don't know. I'm not even going to be interested in this debate. They're all there. Yeah, but you have your own preferences.
Okay, cool. Just to clear that.
That's my preference.
As a representative of the music culture and terrain, I can't sit here and not make certain corrections.
That's good. But you also allow me to have my opinions.
You can.
Thank you
so
so
I can rebuttal is clearly possible as well.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
So I do think, I agree with you. I think more could have been done and more could be done. There were private individuals that helped to celebrate it, and he himself took it upon himself to really do shows in different places. I did the Kumasi show with him as well. There was a documentary that was made, but more could be done. But it also goes to show that as a people, our understanding of documenting history in a more present sense has to be, we have to take it more seriously. And that appreciation helps to shape our appreciation and understanding of us as a people, you know, because he's a living testament of something that's still very alive and very present today. And that time capsule being Paimuka, being celebrated, is significant to actually let people start maybe investigating the music. How did we get there, etc. So yeah, more can always be done.
There is a view that Nigerian music sells more because they sing it in English. Now, do you think if Obrafo did what he did in English, he would have gone beyond the boundaries of Ghana? I know people may listen to him across the continent, but do you think he would have gone further if he was doing it in English? What do you think about that mix?
Well, I think the premise is false.
Okay.
Music is a language on its own. Obviously, when people understand you, what you're saying, there might be an immediate connection, but it's not a requirement. The musical connection is language is more is the requirement. The bigger problem becomes it's a marketing problem, not a creating problem. Okay. You know, a friend of mine always said, you know, who's successful, the creator or the marketer? I think maybe that's part of what is the difference between us and some of our compatriots in other African countries. I think marketing comes with resources, comes with also some additional creativity and ambition and aggression. Mm-hmm. But Lamide does most of his stuff not in English.
Okay.
But you cannot tell me that
it
is restrictive. So I think Obrafo did well to set a certain foundation for us. And I think if they had more resources, I think the world would have known people like Obrafo.
Well, my thinking is that Bob Marley is a prophet, as in the language that he uses. You said Obrafo is a prophet, or he uses philosopher. Mm-hmm. Bob Marley does his in English, so it appeals to someone listening in India, someone listening in Jamaica, someone listening in Nigeria. Obrafo may say similar things to what Bob Marley says, except that someone in Uganda may not understand what he's saying. So that's what I'm looking at. Is it not too restrictive to use a domesticated or local language and hope to get international appeal?
No, I mean, but it comes with different variables. How you choose to do your art, the deliberateness of it, comes with different variables. Mm-hmm. If you choose to be the most authentic person you are, is to do it in whatever language that you are most proficient or most powerful in, then there's other